Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into one of the most confidently misguided chapters in American medicine. The era when your doctor handed a pregnant woman a fistful of prescriptions and called it the very best care that science could offer. Not with quackery. Not with back alley potions. No, with a smiling white coat, a glossy advertisement, and a little amber bottle that came with a schedule. I'm always glad you keep drifting back here, and that this channel has quietly turned into your strange bedtime ritual. If a calm story has ever pulled you under before the last sentence, tapping subscribe helps one more sleepy stranger find the same warm fog. And if your thumbs are still awake, drop a comment telling me where you're dozing off from tonight. Plus the strangest thing a doctor ever told your family was perfectly healthy. Now, settle in. Get the fan going, turn the lamp down low, and draw the quilt up to your chin. Maybe leave the medicine cabinet closed for the night, just this once. Ever wondered how a pill sold to grow bigger, stronger babies could be secretly doing the opposite? Why the standard advice for staying slim during pregnancy involved a pack of cigarettes and a doctor's blessing? What it means to be handed a stimulant so you'll eat less while growing a person? Could you survive a birth you were fully awake for but would never ever remember? Why did anyone think photographing an unborn baby with a giant machine was thorough, first-rate care? And who exactly decided the placenta was a sealed vault? Congratulations. You have just opened your eyes in a doctor's office in suburban America, sometime around 1955, and the man in the white coat is reaching for his prescription pad. There is a scale in the corner and a smile on his face. There is a bottle of white pills with your name already on it, and there is not a single question he expects you to ask. Good luck. You are pregnant, and the first thing that happens is that you stop being a person and become a patient. You sit on a cold vinyl table in a paper gown while a man who has never been pregnant explains what your body is going to do. He is brisk. He is certain. He does not ask you very much, and when you ask him something, the answer arrives already folded up and put away. The visit is short. You are here to receive instructions, not to give information, and the instructions have already been decided. The man is Dr. Merle Vance, and his office smells of pipe smoke, floor polish, and the particular confidence of a person who has never once been wrong out loud. He has a diploma on the wall, angled just slightly toward the patient chair so you cannot miss it. He uncaps his fountain pen with the small ceremony of a man drawing a sword. The pen is the important instrument here. Not the stethoscope. The pen. You try to describe how you have been feeling, the strange tiredness, the way certain smells have turned against you. He nods along warmly, which you mistake for listening. He is not listening. He is waiting for you to finish so that the real work of the appointment can begin, and the real work is the writing of prescriptions. Your symptoms are not information to him. They are a formality to be waited out, like the national anthem before a ball game. Here is the arrangement, and it is worth understanding, because you will be living inside it for 9 months. You have arrived with a body and a set of questions. You will leave with a regimen and a set of orders. Somewhere in the exchange, the questions simply evaporate, and nobody in the room notices them go. The examination itself is quick, cold, and impersonal. A cold hand, a cold instrument, a series of pronouncements delivered to the middle distance rather than to your face. Dr. Vance narrates your own insides back to you in a language you were not taught, and when you ask what a word means, he tells you not to worry about it. Not worrying about it is, in fact, your primary assignment. You will graduate with honours. You are extremely good at it by the end. There is a nurse in the corner, Mrs. Adelaide Pruitt, who has done this 1,000 times and moves through the room like weather. She hands the doctor things before he asks for them. She writes down numbers you never see. When you glance at her, hoping for some flicker of woman-to-woman solidarity, she gives you a brisk, practiced smile that means nothing at all and everything at once. The smile of someone who has decided long ago that the smoothest path is the quiet one. And then it is over. Dr. Vance caps the pen, which is the sound of the appointment ending, and hands you a slip of paper covered in handwriting that appears to have been generated during a small earthquake. On it is the first of many instructions. He does not explain it. He tells you it is for the baby, which is the phrase that will justify everything from here forward. The skeleton key that opens any door in this house. It is for the baby. Who could argue with that? You step down off the table, your paper gown crackling like a dead leaf, and you get dressed in the small cold room while the next patient is already being weighed outside. You are 26 years old and you have just been handed your first prescription of a pregnancy you barely understand by a man who understands it less than he thinks, and you walk out into the afternoon feeling, against all reason, reassured. You have seen the expert. The expert has a plan. The plan is already in your purse. You leave the office holding a small amber bottle, and inside it are chalky white pills you are to swallow every single morning without fail. The doctor called it stilbestrol, or DES, and told you it would protect the baby. You do not know what it is. You do not ask what is in it. You take it at the kitchen sink with a glass of water before anyone else is awake, the way you were told, and you fold the instruction card back into the drawer next to the bread knife. The bottle is a modest little thing, amber glass with a paper label, and it sits on the windowsill above the sink like a small brown saint. Every morning it watches you make coffee. Every morning you shake one pill into your palm, and the pill is chalky, bitter, and faintly sour, and it dissolves a little on your tongue before the water takes it down. It tastes like nothing so much as swallowing a fingernail of blackboard. You have decided this taste is the taste of doing the right thing. The pill has a personality, or you have given it one, which is what happens to any object you must obey daily. It is patient. It is smug. It knows something you do not, and it is not telling. You line it up next to the salt and the vitamins, and it holds itself a little apart from them, aware of its own importance, the honoured guest at the counter who does not have to help with the dishes. It could rent itself out as a small authority on your future. What you are actually swallowing is a synthetic hormone, a laboratory copy of estrogen, built cheaply and sold widely, though none of that language reaches you. To you it is simply the white pill the doctor said was for the baby. The gap between what it is and what you have been told is enormous, an entire ocean of chemistry, and across that ocean you have been handed a single sentence to stand on. It is for the baby. You stand on it every morning at the sink. Your husband, Walter, approves of the pill the way he approves of insurance, in a general, unexamined way that mostly involves not thinking about it. When you mention it, he says the doctor knows his business, and returns to his eggs. The eggs are more real to him than the pill, because the eggs are on his plate and the pill is in your body, and the arrangement of the household has silently decided that your body is a topic for professionals. The instruction card lives in the kitchen drawer, next to the bread knife and the rubber bands, and the small chaos every kitchen keeps in one drawer. You take it out sometimes and read it, though there is not much to read. Take one pill daily, increase as directed. Do not miss a dose. The card is bossy for such a small piece of paper. It has the tone of a note left by someone who does not trust you, which, when you think about it, is exactly what it is, and so a habit forms, the way habits do, without ceremony. The pill becomes as ordinary as brushing your teeth, a small daily transaction between you and a bottle you never chose. You stop reading the card. You stop tasting the bitterness. Your hand knows the reach to the windowsill before your eyes are fully open. The pill, the glass, the swallow, done before the toast is even warm. This is how it gets you, in the end. Not with a dramatic moment, not with a warning bell, but with the sheer boring reliability of a thing you do every morning without thinking. The bottle empties. You refill it. The refilled bottle takes its place on the sill, and the whole enormous machinery of a decade of bad medicine reaches you in your own kitchen, disguised as nothing more alarming than a good habit, kept without fail, before anyone else is awake. The card in your drawer is not a fixed instruction. It is a schedule, and the schedule goes up. You begin at 5 milligrams a day around the 7th week, and every 2 weeks the number climbs, 5 milligrams at a time, then faster. By the middle of the pregnancy, you are taking 25 a day. By the end, you are told to take 125, and some women more. You are swallowing 25 times what you started with, and nobody explains why the number keeps rising. The logic, as far as you can reconstruct it, is that more must be better, because more is what a growing thing needs. The baby grows, so the dose grows, the two of them climbing together like children marking their heights on a doorframe. It is a tidy idea. It is also, as tidy ideas often are, complete nonsense, but it has the shape of sense, and the shape is usually enough. So the pills multiply on the windowsill. What began as one small pill at breakfast becomes a small handful spread across the day. A morning dose and a noon dose and an evening dose, each one dutifully counted out. You buy a little enamel box with compartments to keep track. the kind of box a person might use for buttons or pills or the ashes of a very small relative. You fill its compartments every Sunday night. It is the most organized you have ever been about anything. Dr. Vance oversees the climb with obvious satisfaction. At each visit, he checks the schedule, nods, and raises the number, uncapping the ceremonial pen to write the new figure with a little flourish. He treats the rising dose as evidence that the treatment is working, though what it is working at he could not tell you, because nothing is actually being measured. There is no test. There is only the number going up, and the number going up is its own reward. You ask him once, why so much? He tells you that your body needs the support and that the higher doses are perfectly safe, and he says perfectly safe in the smooth, closing tone of a man shutting a drawer. The tone does the work, the facts cannot. You do not ask again. Perfectly safe becomes another small sentence you stand on, stacked now on top of the first one, the two of them holding up an increasingly heavy pregnancy. By the 8th month, you are taking more of this drug in a single day than the earliest patients took in a week, and your body knows it even if your mind has agreed not to. There are headaches. There is a queasiness that does not seem like the baby. There is a heavy, swimming feeling some afternoons, as if the light has gone syrupy. You mention these things and they are folded neatly into the category of ordinary pregnancy complaints, that vast dumping ground where any inconvenient symptom goes to be forgotten. Mrs. Pruitt, the nurse, watches you count out the noon dose in the waiting room one day and something crosses her face, quick as a bird past a window. Not alarm exactly, something quieter. She says gently that is quite a lot of pills, and then she catches herself and the professional smile slides back down like a shade being drawn. She has seen the schedules. She has done the arithmetic that nobody asks her to do out loud. She says nothing more, because saying more is not her place, and place is the strongest medicine in the building, and still the number climbs. 5, then 10, then 25, then 125, a staircase built 2 weeks at a time, leading nowhere anyone checked. You climb it dutifully one dose after another, trusting that the top of the staircase is a landing and not a ledge. The enamel box fills and empties. The bottle is refilled twice a month now, and the doctor smiles at the rising figure the way a man smiles at a stock that is going up, right up until the morning it isn't. You have never had a miscarriage. Your pregnancy is, by every measure the doctor can find, completely ordinary, and yet the amber bottle sits on your counter anyway, because Des is no longer being given only to women in trouble. It is being given to everyone. The advertisement in the doctor's journal recommends it for routine use in all pregnancies, healthy or not, the way another era might recommend a daily vitamin. You are taking a powerful drug to fix a problem you do not have. It is the part that would puzzle a visitor from any sensible century. A medicine invented to prevent miscarriage, given to a woman who is in no danger of one, on the theory that it will make an already fine pregnancy somehow finer. It is a little like taking a bucket of water to a house that is not on fire, standing in the living room and pouring it on the sofa, just to be safe. The sofa did not ask for this. The sofa was doing fine. But the pill has been steadily promoted, in the span of a few years, from a treatment into a tonic. It has stopped being a thing you take because something is wrong, and become a thing you take because you are pregnant. Full stop. The way you might take pride in a clean porch. The advertisement that convinced your doctor showed a fat, beaming baby and promised bigger, stronger, and healthier infants for everyone, and your doctor, who reads these advertisements the way other men read the racing form, was convinced. The promise is the genius of it. Nobody has to be sick. Nobody has to be at risk. The drug is not sold as a cure for a danger, but as an upgrade to a healthy thing, the deluxe package for a pregnancy that came standard, and there is no better customer in the world than a woman who has been told she can give her baby an advantage. You would do anything for an advantage. Every mother would. That is precisely the door the advertisement walked through, wiping its feet politely on the way in. Dr. Vance does not even frame it as a decision. He does not sit you down and weigh the risks, because in his mind there are none, and because weighing things with patience is not something the appointment has time for. He simply includes the pill in the standard package of being pregnant under his care, the way a hotel includes the little soaps. It comes with the room. You did not order it. You would not have known to. And so you, a perfectly healthy young woman carrying a perfectly ordinary pregnancy, join several million other perfectly healthy women in swallowing a synthetic hormone every day for months, for no reason that would survive 10 minutes of honest scrutiny. The drug is not treating anything. It is simply present, a passenger you are feeding, along for a ride it was never needed on. Your own mother, visiting from 2 towns over, finds this strange. She had her babies at home with a midwife named Orla Finch, who arrived with a leather bag and a great deal of common sense and prescribed exactly nothing. Your mother eyes the bottle on the windowsill and asks, mildly, what it is for. You tell her it is for the baby. She asks, what is wrong with the baby? You say nothing is wrong with the baby. She looks at the bottle for a long moment, and then she looks at you, and she does not say the thing she is thinking, because you are grown now and the doctor is a doctor, and she has been made to feel, in this bright modern kitchen, slightly out of date. That is the small triumph of the arrangement. It has made a woman who successfully birthed 6 children feel like a relic, and made a bottle of unnecessary pills feel like progress. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing was ever wrong with you. And every single morning, without fail, you treat it. You refill the bottle at the corner drugstore, where the pharmacist stands behind a high counter and counts your pills onto a small metal tray. The bell over the door rings when you enter. There is a soda fountain a few feet away, and the whole place smells faintly of camphor. You hand over the slip. He reads the doctor's handwriting, and he counts out your month without comment. Comment is not part of the service, because the doctor ordered it, and that is the end of any conversation that might have happened. The pharmacist is Mr. Alton Ridley, a narrow man in a white coat who has the exact bearing of a bishop presiding over a very small cathedral. He counts pills the way other men count money, licking his thumb, sliding the pills 5 at a time across the tray with a soft, precise clicking. The tray is cold nickel and the pills chatter against it, a dry little sound, like teeth in the cold. He does not rush. Rushing would suggest the work is ordinary, and Mr. Ridley does not believe the work is ordinary. Behind him rise shelves of bottles in ranked colours, amber and cobalt, and a green so deep it looks like something swallowed, each one labelled in a script you cannot read from here. The shelves have the crowded authority of a library nobody is allowed to browse. Whatever is in those bottles, the arrangement makes clear, is not for you to understand. It is for you to be handed, correctly, by a man with clean hands and a serious face. The drugstore is really 2 rooms pretending to be one. At the front, the soda fountain hisses and clinks, a boy in a paper hat building sundaes for children who spin on the stools until they are dizzy. At the back, where you stand, the mood turns churchly and hushed. You have crossed from the room where sugar is dispensed to the room where medicine is, and the 2 rooms do not acknowledge each other, though they share a floor and a smell of malt and menthol. When you hand over the slip, Mr. Ridley reads Dr. Vance's handwriting with the fluency of a man decoding a language only the priesthood speaks. To you, the prescription looks like a spider fell in the inkwell and staggered across the page. To him, it is perfectly clear. This is a small daily miracle of the profession, that 2 men can pass a body between them, writing and reading a private script above your head, while you stand there like a parcel with a name on it. He does not ask you anything, and you understand you are not meant to ask him anything either. Once, you open your mouth to wonder aloud whether all these pills might be a great deal, and Mr. Ridley looks up over his spectacles with the mild, final expression of a man who has been asked to explain the weather. The doctor ordered it, he says. That is the whole answer. The doctor ordered it is a sentence that closes like a bank vault, and you feel the small breeze of it shutting. So you wait while he works, listening to the pills chatter across the nickel, and you look at the great wall of bottles you will never be trusted to understand, and you feel, oddly, cared for. That is the strange spell of the place. 2 serious men in white coats have taken an interest in your insides. The pills are counted with reverence. The whole ritual is designed to make you feel that you are being tended by a system that knows exactly what it is doing. Mr. Ridley folds the top of the white paper bag over twice, creasing it sharp, and slides it across the counter with both hands, the way you would hand over something breakable or holy. You take it. The bell rings again as you leave, back through the room where the children spin, out into the ordinary afternoon, carrying your month of pills in a folded bag, tended, dosed, and entirely in the dark. Every appointment begins the same way. You step on the scale, the nurse slides the little weight along the bar, and a number decides how the rest of the visit will go. Weight gain is treated as a moral failing and a medical danger in equal measure, and you are expected to keep it low, lower than your body wants, during a pregnancy. If the number is too high, the doctor frowns, and the frown carries the weight of science behind it. You leave promising to do better, whatever better means. The scale itself is a tall, cold and unforgiving thing with a beam across the top and a set of sliding weights, and it lives just inside the office door where everyone can see it. Mrs. Pruitt operates it like a woman weighing produce, nudging the little brass slider along the bar until the beam settles, then reading the number aloud to the room in a flat professional voice that offers you no cover at all. The beam trembles and balances. Your week is announced. There is nowhere to hide on a scale. That is rather the point of it. The number is written on your card, and the card remembers everything. Last month's number sits above this month's, and the arithmetic between them is the entire subject of the appointment, more important than how you feel, more important than the baby's kicking, more important than the swimming afternoons you keep mentioning and nobody keeps writing down. The card cares about one thing. The card is keeping score, and here is where the logic bends into something strange. You are growing a whole new person, an entire second human being with its own fingernails and opinions, and you are being scolded for the weight of it. The body, doing exactly the enormous thing bodies do, is treated as a problem to be managed downward. It is a bit like praising a tree for its shade and then billing it for the leaves. Dr. Vance delivers the weight verdict with real gravity. A pound too many, and he tips his head, uncaps the ceremonial pen, and speaks the word watch, as in watch that, watch yourself, watch the scale. He talks about excess weight as though it were a small moral scandal you have been caught committing, a lapse of character that happens to live on your hips. He does not raise his voice. He does not have to. Disappointment, delivered by a man in a white coat, does the work of a shout. You begin to dread the scale more than anything else in the visit, more than the cold instruments, more than the pills. You weigh yourself at home the night before, in your slip, having eaten almost nothing, turning the problem over like a student cramming for an exam that grades the body. You learn the tricks. You learn which shoes are lightest, that a morning appointment is kinder than an afternoon one, that a glass of water has a weight and a cost. You are managing a number now, and the number has slowly become the boss of you. Mrs. Pruitt, sliding the brass weight for the 10,000th time, watches you suck in your breath, as if that might help, and something passes over her face, half pity and half recognition. She has stood on scales too. She reads your number without unkindness, but she reads it because reading it is the job, and the job does not care that the woman on the scale is trying so hard she skipped breakfast to weigh 3 ounces less. And so the war on the scale becomes the secret center of your pregnancy, the thing you organize your days around, the anxiety humming under everything else. You are meant to grow a baby while shrinking yourself, an impossible arithmetic set by a confident man and enforced by a cold brass beam. You leave each appointment promising to do better. You do not know what better means. You only know the number has to go down, and your body, stubbornly, doggedly, keeps insisting on going up. To help you win the war against the scale, the doctor reaches for another bottle. These are amphetamines, though he does not use that word, sold under names like dexedrine, and they will kill your appetite and give you a bright, humming energy. You are pregnant, and you are being handed a stimulant so that you will eat less. You take one at breakfast and the day sharpens into something fast and glassy. Your hunger disappears, and you assume that this, too, must be perfectly safe, because he handed it to you himself. The word amphetamine is never spoken in the office. Dr. Vance calls them something friendlier, a little something to take the edge off your appetite, as though your appetite were a rowdy dog that needed calming. The pills come in a small tin, and they are cheerful in colour, and they sit on the windowsill now beside the white pills, the two of them making a little committee. The white pill grows the baby, this one shrinks the mother. Between them they have opinions about your whole body. What the pill actually does is remarkable, if you stop to notice it, which the pill makes difficult, because noticing is not really its mode. Within half an hour of swallowing it, the morning goes bright, quick, and slightly unreal. The edges of things sharpen, and a busy electric competence hums through you. You scrub the baseboards. You alphabetize the spice rack, which did not know it was in trouble. You write 3 letters to people you do not especially like. The house has never been cleaner, and you have never felt less like eating a single thing. That is the miracle it is sold as and the trap it actually is. Hunger simply leaves, packs a small bag and goes. and with it goes the tedious business of feeding yourself while feeding the baby. The scale, next visit, rewards you. Dr. Vance nods at the lower number with the satisfaction of a man whose system is working, and neither of you says the quiet part, which is that the number went down because a powerful drug talked your body out of eating. The afternoons are the price. Around 3, the brightness curdles. The humming turns to a fine trembling in your hands, a jangling behind your eyes, a heart that seems to be taking the stairs 2 at a time for no reason. You feel scraped out and wired at once, exhausted and unable to rest. A clock wound far too tight and left to shudder on the shelf. You have been up since dawn on borrowed energy, and now the loan is being called in with interest. Your neighbour Dolores, who is on the same tin, presses a second one into your palm over the fence and tells you it helps to take another when the slump comes. You do, and the day starts over, bright and glassy again, and this is how a person ends up taking 2, then 3, riding a small chemical carousel that goes faster the longer you stay on. Dolores has the wide, buzzing eyes of a woman who has not truly sat still since the Truman administration. You are becoming, cheerfully, the same. Nobody wonders what the drug does to the passenger. The baby, curled and growing, is riding the same carousel you are, sharing every bright, glassy morning and every trembling afternoon, and the question of what a stimulant might do to a person roughly the size of a fist is not asked, because it does not occur to anyone that it should be. The pill is for your weight, the baby is behind the wall, the 2 facts sit side by side and never introduce themselves. So you swallow the cheerful little pill each morning and the scale stays low and the doctor stays pleased, and the trembling afternoons become simply how afternoons feel now. You are thin and wired and praised for both. It is, everyone agrees, excellent modern care. You alphabetize the spice rack again. It is still in order. You do it anyway. The weight advice does not stop at pills. The doctor suggests quite seriously that you smoke. A cigarette will calm your nerves, he says, and more importantly it will keep your appetite down, and appetite is the enemy. He recommends holding it to about 4 a day, as if he is prescribing a dose. This is the age of the doctor in the cigarette advertisement, the physician in the white coat recommending a brand, and so lighting up on medical advice does not feel strange to you at all. He says it the way he says everything, smoothly, reasonably, uncapping the pen out of pure habit as though a cigarette were something he might write down. 4 a day, he tells you, and no more, because moderation is the mark of a sensible patient. He has, you notice, an ashtray on his own desk, a heavy glass one holding the grey remains of his morning, and it does not strike either of you as odd that a man advising you on your health is doing so through a thin haze of his own smoke. The advice fits the times perfectly. Everywhere you look, a doctor is recommending a cigarette. The magazines are full of white-coated men assuring you that their particular brand is the smooth one, the gentle one, the one that soothes the throat, and the ashtray has migrated into every room of American life, onto every side table, into the palm of every calm and capable adult. To smoke is to be modern. To smoke is to be relaxed. That the smoke is going straight down into a woman who is straining to grow a child is a thought that has occurred to precisely no one. So you take it up, dutifully, the way you took up the white pills and the cheerful tin, another instruction to be followed. You are not a natural smoker. The first one makes you cough and go faintly green, your body registering an objection your mind has agreed to ignore. But you persist, because it was ordered, and soon there is a small ritual to it. The tap of the pack, the strike of the match, the first pull that is supposed to steady your nerves and mostly just makes you dizzy in a new and interesting direction. The cigarette earns its keep at the appointments, because it does in fact dull your appetite, joining the amphetamine in a 2-front war against the sandwich. The scale stays low. Dr. Vance is pleased. You have now assembled a small arsenal, a stimulant and a cigarette and a great deal of willpower, all aimed at keeping a growing woman from eating, and all of it prescribed, encouraged, and blessed by the medical profession as sound. Your mother, on another visit, watches you light one at the kitchen table and goes very still. She never smoked a day in her life. She birthed her babies fat and healthy and unmedicated in the old way, and she looks at the cigarette between your fingers with the particular silence of a woman biting back 6 different sentences. When she finally speaks, all she says is that it does not seem right to her, and you tell her, gently, patiently, the way you would explain a telephone to a child, that the doctor recommended it, The doctor recommended it. There it is again, the sentence that ends all sentences, and your mother, who is right, goes quiet, because she is only a mother, and he is a doctor. And so the smoke curls up into the bright kitchen, and the ashtray fills, and you sit there thin and dizzy and obedient, doing genuine harm on genuine medical advice 4 times a day, like a sensible patient. The cigarette burns down to your fingers. You stub it out neatly in the tray. Somewhere in the future, a Surgeon General is clearing his throat to say something that will make all of this unthinkable. But that is years off, and tonight the doctor's orders glow orange in the dark, and you follow them, because following them is the only thing anyone has asked you to do. The nausea comes in waves, usually before you have gotten out of bed, and for that there is yet another bottle. It is called bendectin, and it is the thing everyone takes, so common that 1/4 of the pregnant women you know are on it. You swallow it against the churning in your stomach, and it helps, or seems to, and you add it to the growing row of bottles on the windowsill above the sink. You are now managing your own pregnancy like a small, complicated pharmacy. The row on the sill has become genuinely impressive. There is the white pill for the baby, the cheerful tin for your appetite, and now this, the morning sickness bottle, standing at the end of the line like the newest recruit. The bottles catch the morning light and throw little amber, green, and golden shadows onto the counter. You have started to think of them collectively, the way a shepherd thinks of a flock. You count them. You worry when one runs low. They are, in their small way, the most demanding members of the household. Bendectin is popular the way a song is popular, everywhere at once and for no reason anyone examines. Everyone takes it. Your neighbour takes it, your cousin took it, the woman ahead of you in line at the market mentions it the way you might mention the weather. Its very ordinariness is its best advertisement. A drug that 1/4 of all pregnant women are swallowing cannot possibly be dangerous, the reasoning goes, because surely someone would have noticed by now, and surely someone is in charge of noticing. The nausea it fights is real and miserable, a green rolling tide that arrives before your feet touch the floor and makes the smell of Walter's morning eggs into a personal insult. You have knelt on the cold bathroom tile enough mornings to be genuinely grateful for anything that promises relief. So when the bottle takes the edge off, when the tide pulls back a little and lets you stand upright and face the day, you love it, honestly and simply, the way you love anything that ends a small daily suffering. And this is what makes the whole arrangement so hard to see from inside it. The drug does something you can feel. The nausea is worse, then you take the bottle, then the nausea is better. And that little sequence is more convincing than any study ever printed, because it happens in your own stomach on your own bathroom floor. You are not being fooled by a slogan. You are being persuaded by relief, which is a far more honest salesman and a far more dangerous one. Into the bottle go 3 different ingredients, though you know none of their names and would not be told if you asked. It is simply the morning sickness medicine, a single friendly noun covering a small committee of chemicals, each with its own private argument to make with your body. You swallow the committee whole before breakfast and go about your day, and the pharmacy on your counter gains another loyal member. Mrs. Pruitt, when you mention how much the bottle helps, gives you a rare warm nod, because this is the one thing in the whole regimen she does not privately flinch at. The nausea is real. The relief is real. She has held enough basins and wiped enough foreheads to be glad, genuinely glad, that some green morning misery can be softened. Even a nurse who has learned to keep her doubts folded up small can be permitted this one plain kindness. So the bottle stays, at the end of the row, catching the light with the others. You are proud, in a strange domestic way, of how well you manage them all, the doses and the timings and the refills. A whole flock of little glass demands tended faithfully every day. You have become an excellent patient. You have become, without quite meaning to, a woman who takes 4 medicines before lunch and thinks of it as taking good care of herself. At night your mind will not settle, and the pregnancy has made rest difficult, so the doctor writes you one more slip. These are barbiturates, phenobarbital for the nerves and something stronger for the nights you truly cannot sleep. You take one and a heavy, chemical calm pulls you down into a sleep that is not quite your own. In the morning you are groggy and slow, but you slept, and sleeping was the goal. And so this bottle joins the others in the steady rhythm of your day. The trouble the pill solves is partly a trouble the other pills made. You spent the day bright and glassy on the appetite tin, your heart taking the stairs 2 at a time, and now, late in the evening, your body has no intention of stopping. It hums, it jangles, It lies in the dark with its eyes wide open, reviewing every conversation you have had since childhood. The stimulant that thinned you all day has no plans to let you rest, and so the doctor, sensibly, prescribes its opposite. This is the beautiful closed logic of the regimen. A pill winds you up, so a pill must wind you down. Nobody suggests removing the first pill. That would be admitting the first pill was the problem, and the first pill is keeping the scale happy, so instead you get a second pill to undo the first, and the two of them will spend your pregnancy in a kind of chemical arm wrestling match, using your body as the table. The barbiturate does its work with a heavy hand. It does not coax you towards sleep the way warm milk might. It reaches up, takes you by the ankle, and pulls you straight down through the mattress into a dense, dreamless dark that has none of the softness of real rest. You go under fast, you surface slow. The sleep it gives is thick and grey and faintly rubbery, sleep with the taste of a spoon in it, and you wake from it not refreshed but merely released, like a coat let out of a very small closet. The mornings pay for the nights. You come up groggy, wading through a fog that does not lift until the appetite tin cuts through it around 9. And there you have it, the full circle, one pill clearing the fog, the other pill left. You are being handed from chemical to chemical around the clock now, up in the morning, down at night, cleared out again by noon, a body run entirely on instructions, none of which you wrote. What none of it touches is the passenger. The barbiturate, like everything else, sinks through you and reaches the baby, who has no appetite to suppress and no anxious evening to soothe and no say in any of it, and who receives a dose of sedative every night simply for sharing your body. The thought does not arise. The wall is presumed. The baby sleeps, the grey rubbery sleep with you, and nobody wonders whether a person the size of a pear should be sleeping it at all. Walter, beside you, finds your new sleep faintly enviable. He watches you go under in minutes, flat and still and gone, while he lies there with the ordinary worries of an ordinary man, and he says, only half joking, that he would not mind one of those himself. You do not tell him about the fog, or the spoon taste, or the way the sleep feels like being switched off rather than allowed to rest. You just say it helps, because that is the word everyone uses for everything on the sill. It helps. And so the last bottle of the day takes its place, the closing note in a daily song you did not compose. Morning brightness, afternoon tremble, evening calm, night oblivion, refilled twice a month, tended dutifully, praised at every visit. You lie in the pulled-down dark and feel the heavy hand reach for your ankle, and you let it take you, grateful, obedient, and never once alone in it. Your days now have a chemical shape to them. In the morning you take the stimulant that makes you thin and quick and awake. At night you take the sedative that pushes you back down into sleep. Up, then down, then up again, a body run on a schedule of opposing pills, each one correcting the last. You do not think of it as strange. You think of it as being well managed, as being a modern woman receiving modern care, and every bottle on the sill was handed to you by someone you trust. If you drew it on paper, it would look like a tide chart. The stimulant lifts you at 9. You crest around 11, bright and scrubbing. You begin to sink by 3, trembling, and reach for another to lift you again. By evening you are jangled past all reason, so the barbiturate takes you by the ankle and pulls you under until morning, when the whole tide turns and comes back in. Your body is no longer keeping its own hours, it is keeping the hours the bottles keep. The strangest part is how ordinary it feels. You are not a woman with a problem. You are, by the standards of the day, a woman doing everything right, following every instruction, taking excellent care of herself and her baby. The pills are not a scandal, they are good housekeeping. You keep the medicine chest as carefully as you keep the linen closet, and you take the same modest pride in both, the pride of a woman on top of things. There is a phrase for the combined pill, the one that packs the lift and the calm into a single pill, sold to busy people who want to be thin and serene at the same time and cannot be bothered to manage 2 bottles. It is the tidiest expression of the philosophy, an argument and its rebuttal pressed into one small disc, a woman wound up and calmed down by the same swallow. Convenience, they call it. Efficiency. Your entire nervous system contracted out. And underneath the tidy tide chart, unmeasured, unmentioned, the baby rides all of it. Every lift and every fall, every bright morning and every rubbery night pass straight through the wall that everyone swears is there. You are, without any of the words for it, raising a child on shift work before it is even born, days on the stimulant, nights on the sedative, a small curled passenger strapped into a carnival ride nobody thinks to stop, because nobody thinks it can feel the ride at all. Dolores, over the fence, treats the whole system as a badge of competence. She recites her own schedule proudly, the tin at breakfast, the second one at 3, the sleeper at night, ticking them off on her fingers like a woman listing her children's achievements. She has the bright, ticking energy of a clock that has been overwound for years and somehow keeps running. She tells you that this is simply what it takes to keep a nice home and a nice figure, and she is not wrong about what it takes. She is only wrong about whether it is worth it. You catch your reflection sometimes in the dark kitchen window, late, waiting for the sedative to reach your ankle, and you do not entirely recognize the woman there, thin and wired and faithful, holding a glass of water and a small pill in the blue light. She looks capable. She looks managed. She looks like a woman who has handed the running of her own body over to a committee of bottles and calls the arrangement good care. You drink the water. The pill goes down. The tide turns. And in the morning it all begins again. The lift, the crest, the sink, the lift, the same reliable tide, kept religiously, praised at every visit, hiding in plain sight on a sunny sill in a clean American kitchen. You are the best patient your doctor has. You do exactly as you are told. That, it turns out, is the whole problem, wearing an apron and smiling, doing everything right. At some point the doctor sends you down a corridor to a cold room with a large machine, because it is standard now to photograph the baby before it is born. You lie on a hard table under the lens while a technician arranges you and steps behind a wall. There is a click and a hum. It is called an X-ray, and it is considered thorough, careful, first-rate care, the kind only a good hospital can offer. You hold still, as instructed, and let the machine look straight through you at the baby. The room is colder than the rest of the building, and it hums even when nothing is happening, a low electric drone that lives in the walls. The table is hard and covered in a thin sheet that does nothing to warm it. Above you hangs the machine itself, a great grey arm with a glass eye, poised over your belly like a heron considering a fish. You lie beneath it in your paper gown and try to breathe normally, which is difficult, because the whole apparatus has the patient, watchful stillness of something about to strike. The technician is a brisk young man named Mr. Cyril Dunmore, who arranges your body the way a photographer arranges a bowl of fruit, a nudge here, a turn there, all business, no eye contact. He tells you to hold quite still and then crucially he leaves. He walks behind a thick wall, and it is only there, from behind the wall, that he trips the machine. You notice this. Some animal part of you notices that the man protects himself with a wall while you lie exposed beneath the eye, but you are not encouraged to think about it, and so you decide not to. The click and the hum last only a moment. There is nothing to feel. The beam passes through you invisibly, painlessly, leaving no mark and no sensation, and that absence of feeling is exactly what makes it so easy to trust. A thing that hurt would frighten you. A thing that burned would warn you. But the X-ray touches nothing you can sense, slides through mother and child like light through a window, and the body has no alarm for a danger it cannot feel. So you feel nothing, and you conclude that nothing happened. The picture it takes is marvellous, and everyone treats it as a wonder, which it is. There, on the developed film, is the baby, curled and unmistakable, a small pale skeleton floating in the grey of you. Dr. Vance holds it up to the light and points out the spine, the skull, the tiny cabbage of ribs, and you feel a rush of pure amazement at your own child, seen before it is ever held. It is impossible not to love the machine a little for showing you that. And that love is the trap closing, quietly, with a wonder inside it. The image is so miraculous, so obviously a triumph of modern medicine, that the idea of it doing harm becomes almost unthinkable, an insult to the marvel. How could a thing that shows you your baby be hurting your baby? The very beauty of the picture is what makes the danger invisible, and you carry the little grey skeleton home to show Walter, proud, delighted, and entirely unafraid. Mr. Dunmore develops a great many of these pictures a day and thinks nothing of any of them. He steps behind his wall, trips his machine, and hands over marvel after marvel to grateful mothers, and if some grim arithmetic is accumulating in all those exposed bellies, it is not his to notice and not his to name. He is a technician. He takes the picture. The picture is beautiful. Everyone is pleased. So you lie there under the grey heron, faithfully still, and let the eye look straight through you, and you rise without a mark and carry a photograph of your unborn child back down the cold corridor like a small miracle in an envelope. Nothing hurt, nothing burned, nothing warned you. That, it turns out, was the whole trouble with it. The X-ray has a purpose with a name, pelvimetry, and it means the doctor is measuring the width of your pelvis and the size and position of the baby to plan the birth. You may be photographed this way more than once across the pregnancy, each time lying still under the machine while it looks. The radiation is invisible, painless and silent, leaving no mark, and so it does not feel like anything is happening to you at all. You get up, straighten your dress, and walk back to the waiting room. Pelvimetry is the sort of word that does a great deal of work by simply sounding official. It means stripped down, measuring the hole the baby must come through, but no one would say it that way, and the long clinical name lends the whole business a reassuring seriousness. Dr. Vance uses the word the way a captain uses a nautical term, to remind everyone aboard that he alone can read the instruments. You do not need to understand it, you need only to lie down and be measured. And measured you are, repeatedly. This is not a single photograph, but a habit, a thing done again and again as the pregnancy advances, because the baby grows and the plan must be updated, and each update means another trip to the cold room, another arrangement on the hard table, another click and hum from behind the wall. What was billed as one marvellous glimpse becomes a standing appointment, and the exposures pile up unremarked, one atop another, like coins dropped into a jar you cannot see the bottom of. The measurements themselves are treated with enormous gravity. Dr. Vance holds the developed films to the light and speaks of your pelvis as though it were a doorway in an old house, checking whether the furniture will fit through it. He measures the passage and he measures the passenger, and he writes numbers on your card, and the numbers make him feel that the birth has been brought under control, planned, engineered, subdued in advance. Nature is being audited. He finds this deeply satisfying. What the measurements mostly accomplish is to make everyone feel that something rigorous is being done, which is a different thing from something useful being done. The pelvis will be the size it is on the day, and the baby will come as babies come, and the elaborate photographic survey of your insides changes almost none of that. But it looks like precision, and the looking is the point, because a machine that produces numbers is trusted the way a wise woman with 40 years of hands is no longer trusted. The coins keep dropping into the unseen jar. Each exposure feels like nothing, and a great many nothings are accumulating in the one place nobody is looking, the small curled body photographed over and over for the sake of a plan. The film comes back beautiful every time, and everyone admires it, and the tally rises silently in the dark where no instrument in that building is pointed. Mr. Dunmore, arranging you on the table for the third time this pregnancy, is friendly now, familiar. He knows your name. He positions you with the easy competence of a man who has done this countless times, and he steps behind his wall, and he trips his machine, and to him it is the most routine thing in the world, no more remarkable than turning a key. And that is exactly what makes it dangerous, that it has become so ordinary, so friendly, so entirely unremarkable to everyone in the room. So you are measured and measured again, the passage and the passenger, each visit adding another invisible coin to the jar, each film admired and filed. You straighten your dress and walk back to wait, feeling looked after, feeling thoroughly and modernly cared for. The plan for your birth grows more detailed with every photograph. Whether the plan is worth what it costs is a question that will not be asked for a generation by a quiet woman in Oxford with a very long list of children who did not live. Nobody in the room is afraid of the machine, least of all you, because in these years radiation is a wonder, not a warning. It is modern and clean and scientific, the very edge of medicine, the same glamorous force that will supposedly power the future. Shoe stores let children X-ray their own feet for fun. The idea that the invisible beam looking through you at your unborn child might be doing invisible harm is not on anyone's mind, because harm is not what miracles do, and this is sold to you as a miracle. To understand how unafraid everyone is, you have to understand what radiation means to this decade. It is not the shadowed, dreaded thing it will later become. It is bright, futuristic, and faintly glamorous, the stuff of a coming golden age, the invisible genie that will light the cities and cure the sick and generally usher everyone into a cleaner tomorrow. It is progress itself, humming in the walls. The proof is at the shoe store, of all places. Downtown, a machine stands in the corner where children line up to slide their feet into a slot and peer down through a viewer at their own bones, wiggling their glowing toe bones inside their new shoes, delighted, while their mothers nod approvingly at how well the shoes fit. It is a toy. It is a marvel. A child can bathe his own growing feet in the beam for the sheer fun of watching his skeleton wave back, and nobody stops him, because why on earth would they? That is the air you breathe when you lie down under the machine at the hospital. If children play with the beam for amusement, how could the same beam, wielded by a serious doctor for a serious purpose, be anything but good? The very casualness of it elsewhere makes it feel safe here. A danger would not be sitting in a shoe store entertaining 8-year-olds. The absence of fear is taken as proof there is nothing to fear, and the marvel keeps delivering marvels, which is what makes it so persuasive. Every film that comes back shows you something real and astonishing. The baby's spine, the set of its skull, the plan of its small bones, genuine knowledge pulled out of the dark of your own body. The machine does not feel like a risk you are running. It feels like a gift you are receiving, a window opened onto a room you were never before allowed to see into. Gratitude, not caution, is the natural response, and gratitude is what you feel. Underneath all this shine, of course, something patient and physical is happening that no amount of enthusiasm can talk out of it. The beam does not know it is a miracle. It does not care that the decade adores it. It passes through the growing cells of a very small person and does its patient work regardless of the mood in the room, indifferent to the shoe store and the approving mothers and the bright futuristic promises, a plain fact wearing the costume of a wonder, but that reckoning belongs to a later chapter, told by people not yet listened to. For now the machine is beloved. For now the beam is clean. For now a pregnant woman lies down beneath it gladly, and a child down the street giggles at his own glowing toes, and the whole country agrees that the invisible light is one of the great gifts of the age, and treats it accordingly, with wonder and with carelessness in equal measure. You walk past the shoe store on your way home some afternoons and see the children lined up at the machine, and you smile, because it is a charming sight, all those small faces lit blue in the viewer. You do not shudder. Why would you? You are living inside the same bright faith they are. The faith that the future is clean and the light is good and the marvels of the age could never, ever turn out to be anything other than kind. While you wait, you page through a glossy magazine from the stack on the side table, the kind full of casseroles and appliances and smiling families. What you do not notice is that the advertisements in the medical journal on the doctor's own desk are selling him the exact drugs now sitting in your handbag. The pill was marketed to him with a picture of a fat, happy baby and a promise. You were never the customer. You were the outcome the advertisement promised, and the sale was closed before you arrived. The magazine in your lap is a warm and busy thing, thick with recipes for dishes suspended in gelatin and advertisements for refrigerators the size of small cars. You turn the pages idly, half reading, letting the waiting room time pass, and the whole publication hums with the cheerful certainty of the age, that life is improving, that everything modern is better, that a good wife keeps a bright kitchen and trusts the experts. It is a pleasant thing to page through. It is also, in its way, part of the same machine, because there is another magazine in this building, and you never see it. It sits on Dr. Vance's own desk, a thick medical journal, and its pages are not full of casseroles. They are full of advertisements too, but these advertisements are aimed at him, and they are selling the very bottles that ended up on your windowsill. This is where the pill was really sold. Not to you, to him. You were downstream of a transaction that happened entirely over your head. And the advertisement that convinced him is a small masterpiece of persuasion. It shows a plump, beaming, and glowing baby, the fattest and happiest ever photographed, and beside it a promise printed bold, that this drug means bigger, stronger infants, and that a careful doctor gives it to every expectant mother in his care. It simply pairs a plump baby with a confident sentence and lets a busy physician's own good intentions do the rest. Study the arrangement and it is almost elegant. You want a healthy baby. Your doctor wants to be the kind of doctor who delivers healthy babies. The advertisement offers you both the same tool. Nobody in this chain is a villain. You are a loving mother, he is a conscientious doctor, and the drug company is simply a helpful friend standing between you with a solution, taking a small fee to introduce you. Everyone means well. That is precisely why it works. What none of the smiling pages mention, in either magazine, is any question of proof, because proof is not what is being sold. The advertisement does not say the drug was tested and found to work. It says the drug means a healthy baby, which is a picture and a feeling, not a fact. And a picture and a feeling are far better salesmen than a fact could ever be. You are being sold hope, wearing the white coat of medicine, and hope does not come with a list of side effects. You put the magazine down when the nurse calls your name. You and the pill were introduced by an advertisement, though only one of you ever saw it. You never learn there was another magazine on the doctor's side of the door that you should have read. And this is how a whole country of loving mothers came to take a useless drug on purpose. Not through force, not through trickery, exactly. Through a chain of good intentions and glossy pages, a fat baby smiling from a doctor's desk, a promise nobody thought to check, and a waiting room full of women paging cheerfully through the wrong magazine, waiting to be told what was best for them by men who had been told the same thing by an advertisement. You could ask what the white pills are, or what the injection will be, or why the dose keeps climbing, but the culture of the office does not invite it. Doctor knows best is not a slogan here. It is the whole arrangement. Your job is to comply, gratefully and without a word, and to trust that the man with the prescription pad has already done the worrying on your behalf, so you do not ask. You take what you are given, and you assume that somebody somewhere has checked. A good patient does not interrogate her doctor any more than a good passenger climbs into the cockpit to check the pilot's arithmetic. There is an order to things, and the order is soothing, and stepping outside it feels not brave but rude, the social equivalent of licking your knife at dinner. You were raised to be agreeable. The office rewards you for it, and so a strange silence settles over the most important questions of your life. What is this pill? What does it do? Why is there more of it every week? These are enormous questions, and you carry them around unasked, tucked away like the loose button you keep meaning to sew, because the man who holds the answers has made it gently clear that answers are not what the appointment is for. Dr. Vance is not cruel about it. That is what makes it so effective. He does not snap or scold when a question slips out. He simply deflects, warmly, with the smooth confidence of a man patting a chair, telling you not to trouble your head, that it is all quite standard, that these are matters best left to him. The kindness is real and the condescension is real, and they arrive in the same sentence, wrapped around each other so tightly you cannot pull them apart. You leave feeling both cared for and quietly diminished. The word they use for a woman who asks too much is not flattering. Nervous, anxious, difficult, high-strung. A patient who wants to know what she is swallowing is not treated as sensible but as slightly hysterical, a bundle of pregnant nerves in need of soothing rather than answering. So the very act of curiosity gets recategorized as a symptom, and the cure for the symptom is more trust and perhaps another calming pill. And the question you started with dissolves, unanswered, into a diagnosis of you. Mrs. Pruitt sees all of this from the corner, having watched it play out 1,000 times, and she has developed a whole silent language for it, a slight lowering of the eyes, a small pause before she hands over the next slip. She knows the questions you are not asking, because she once did not ask them either. But her place is beside the doctor, not beside you, and the whole building is arranged to keep it that way, and so her sympathy stays where all the useful things in this office stay, unspoken and just out of reach. What makes the silence so complete is that it feels like safety. You are not lying awake worrying about the pills, because worrying is precisely what you have handed over. That was the deal. He does the worrying, you do the trusting, and the great relief of it, the genuine comfort, is that you get to set the burden down. Somebody has checked, you tell yourself. Somebody must have. A thing this ordinary, this universal, this confidently prescribed, has surely been checked by somebody at some point. There is no somebody. There is only a chain of trusting people passing the burden along. You trusting the doctor trusting the advertisement trusting the profit, and nowhere in the chain a person who actually checked. The safety you feel is the safety of a bridge everyone assumes someone else inspected. You walk across it every morning at the kitchen sink, grateful, quiet, and never once looking down. It is not only you who trusts him. Your husband trusts him, your mother trusts him, the whole household arranges itself around his instructions. When you mention feeling uneasy about the pills, you are gently reminded that the doctor went to school for this and you did not. Concern is treated as a kind of hysteria, a thing pregnancy makes women prone to, and the cure for it is more trust. So your worry has nowhere to go. It sits unspoken under everything, and you keep taking the pills. Walter is the clearest example. He is a good and loving man, and his love expresses itself, in this matter, as a firm and total confidence in the doctor. When you say the pills make your head swim, he does not dismiss you unkindly. He simply reassures you, warmly, that Dr. Vance knows what he is doing, and this reassurance is meant as tenderness, as a husband soothing a wife. He is handing you the very thing that is failing you, wrapped in genuine affection, and calling it comfort. The reassurance always flows the same direction, toward more trust, never toward more questions. Nobody in the house ever says, "That does sound strange, let us find out what is in it." They say, "The doctor recommended it," the way you might end an argument by mentioning the weather. Your unease is real, and it is treated as a small weather system passing over you, something to wait out, not something to investigate. Trust is the family religion, and doubt is the only sin. Your mother, who might have been your ally, has been gently disarmed. She birthed 6 children in the old way and knows a great deal, but this bright new world of hospitals and specialists has been very good at making her knowledge feel like superstition. When she frowns at the windowsill, she is reminded, kindly, that things are different now, that medicine has advanced, that her way was the old way. And so she softens her frown and holds her tongue, a wise woman made to feel like a relic in her own daughter's kitchen. The word waiting under all of it, never quite said aloud, is hysterical. It is a word with a long history and a specific target, and everyone in the room knows its shape without naming it. The moment your concern is filed under hysteria, it stops being an argument and becomes a symptom, and symptoms are treated, not answered. So your worry, having nowhere to go, does what unheard worries do. It goes underground. It stops presenting itself at dinner and starts living in secret in the small hours, a low hum beneath the ordinary days, surfacing only when you are alone at the sink with the bottle in your hand. You have learned that speaking it aloud only produces more reassurance, and reassurance is not what you want. You want to know, but wanting to know has been gently, lovingly, made into a flaw. And this is the genius of it, that it does not need force. It needs only love, pointed slightly wrong. Every person who talks you out of your unease means well, wishes you nothing but health and calm, and each of them, in the act of soothing you, closes off the one road that might have led somewhere. You are surrounded by people who care for you deeply, and they have formed, without meaning to, a soft and perfect wall between you and the question you keep almost asking. So you keep taking the pills. Not because you were forced, but because everyone you love agreed, gently and in unison, that taking them was what a sensible, healthy, unhysterical woman would do. And you want, more than almost anything, to be sensible. So you swallow the pill, and you set the worry back down where it lives, and you go on, loved, reassured, and entirely alone with the one thought nobody will let you finish. As the due date nears, you pack a small bag and set it by the door, because the baby will be born in a hospital the way nearly everyone is born now. You will not have this child at home with a midwife the way your grandmother did. You will be admitted, gowned, and handed over to the professionals, and you have been told this is safer, cleaner, more modern. You fold a nightgown into the bag and you wait for the first contraction, trusting the plan completely, because the plan is all you have been given. The bag itself is a small ceremony. You fold in a nightgown, a hairbrush, a little bag of toiletries, as if the birth of your child were a short trip to a hotel of uncertain quality. You place it by the front door where you will not forget it. It sits there for days, patient and packed, a small canvas promise that everything has been thought of, everything arranged, everything handed to the proper people. This is new, this leaving of home to give birth, though it does not feel new to you. It feels like the only way there is. But your grandmother would not recognize it. She had her children in her own bed, in her own house, with a midwife named Orla Finch, who arrived with a leather bag of her own and a lifetime of hands, and the whole event happened among the smells and sounds of home, surrounded by women who knew you. In the span of a single generation, that entire world has been folded up and put away. What replaced it is the hospital, and the hospital has been sold to you as a clear improvement, safer and cleaner and more modern, the birth brought indoors under bright lights and proper supervision. And there is truth in it. A hospital can save a mother a home never could, but something has also been silently traded away in the move, and nobody itemized the cost, because the cost is hard to see until you are inside it, gowned and flat on a table in a room full of strangers. The trade is this. At home you were the person having a baby, and everyone else was there to help you do it. At the hospital you will be the patient, and the birth will be something done to you by others, on their schedule, by their methods, with their drugs. You are handing over not just the danger but the whole event, the pain and the memory and the doing of it, into professional hands, and you have been taught to feel this as relief rather than loss. And relief is, honestly, most of what you feel standing there looking at the packed bag by the door. You are frightened of the pain, as any sensible person would be, and you have been promised that the hospital will spare you the worst of it, that modern methods mean you need not suffer the way your grandmother suffered. That promise is a real comfort. You hold on to it. You do not ask exactly how the sparing will be done, because the not asking is a habit now, worn smooth. Walter checks the bag twice and moves it an inch closer to the door, performing the small, useful rituals of a nervous father with nothing to actually do. He is proud and terrified in the ordinary way of husbands. When the time comes, he will drive you there, and then be sent to a waiting room to pace, because his part ends at the door too. So the bag sits by the door, and the days tighten toward the date, and you rest your hand on the great curve of yourself and feel the baby shift, and you wait. You have done everything you were told. You have taken every pill, kept every appointment, packed every sensible item. There is nothing left to do but wait for the first pain, and hand yourself over, and trust that the plan, whatever exactly it is, will be kind. The contractions start, and you are taken to the hospital, where you are promptly separated from your husband, undressed, put into a gown, and prepared for a birth that will be run entirely by strangers. He is sent to a waiting room to pace and smoke. You are wheeled through swinging doors into a bright, tiled world of steel and antiseptic. From this moment, you are no longer really in charge of what happens to your body, and the first thing that happens is that a nurse arrives with a needle. The separation from Walter is quick and final. One moment he is beside you, gripping your hand in the corridor, useless and dear. The next, a nurse has peeled you gently away and pointed him toward a distant room with hard chairs and old magazines, and the doors swing shut between you. He will spend the next many hours in that room with the other fathers, a small herd of frightened men in a fog of cigarette smoke, waiting to be told. On your side of the doors, you are processed. There is no gentler word for it. Your clothes are taken and folded away, your own dress and shoes suddenly belonging to a life on the other side of the swinging doors. You are put into a thin gown that ties in the back and covers very little and belongs to the building. With the dress goes the last of your standing as a person who decides things. The gown is a uniform, and its message is plain. You are one of the patients now. The world you have entered is bright and cold and hard, all white tile and gleaming steel, smelling powerfully of antiseptic laid over something sweeter underneath. It is a room designed for cleanliness and efficiency and the convenience of the staff, and not at all for the comfort of the woman on the table. There is nothing soft in it. There is nothing of home in it. There is a great deal of metal, and it all catches the light, and it all looks very serious about its work. The preparations are done to you, not with you, and they are not dignified. There are procedures, brisk and impersonal, that a woman of your upbringing has no words for, and would never have imagined submitting to, performed by strangers with the flat efficiency of people readying a room. You lie there and let it happen, because there is nothing else to do, and because you have been trained your whole life to be a good and cooperative patient. And the training holds even here, even now, even like this. The nurse who runs your prep is a large, calm, unhurried woman named Mrs. Verna Kessler, who has done this 10,000 times and moves through the ritual with the serene detachment of a woman folding sheets. She is not unkind. She is simply somewhere else behind her eyes, her sympathy long ago worn to a professional smoothness, and she handles your fear the way she handles your arm, gently, firmly, and without particularly noticing it. To her you are the 10th today and the 1,000th this year. And then, at the end of all the preparing, she arrives with the needle. She fills it without ceremony from a small glass bottle, taps the air from it with a practiced flick, and takes your arm in her large, calm hand. She does not tell you what is in it. She tells you it will help, that you should just relax now and let them take care of everything. You feel the cold swab, the small sharp bite of the needle sliding in. And that is the last decision your body makes on its own for many hours. Everything after the needle belongs to the drug and to the strangers. You lie back on the hard table under the bright lights, the antiseptic sharp in your nose, Mrs. Kessler's steady hand on your wrist, and you feel the first warm strangeness begin to spread up your arm and into the center of you, carrying the whole bright cold room slowly out of your reach. The needle holds two drugs, morphine and scopolamine, and together they are called twilight sleep. The morphine dulls the pain, and the scopolamine does something stranger. It erases your memory of the hours to come. You are not being put to sleep. You will be awake for all of it. You simply will not remember any of it afterward, which the hospital counts as the same thing as a painless birth. The plunger goes down, a warmth spreads through you, and the room begins to slide gently out of your grasp. Consider what these two drugs actually do together. The morphine is the part you would expect, an old, powerful painkiller that softens the edges of the agony to come. But the scopolamine is the true architect of twilight sleep, and it does not touch the pain at all. It touches the memory. It reaches into the part of you that records what happens and quietly unplugs it, so that the night can happen fully and leave no trace. This is what the cheerful name is designed to hide. You are not going to sleep through your labor. You are going to be wide awake through every minute of it. You will feel the contractions at full strength. You will cry out. You will suffer exactly as much as you would have without the injection. The drug does not spare you the pain. It only ensures that, tomorrow, you will not be able to remember having felt it. The hospital and the age treat these two things as identical. A birth you cannot remember and a birth without pain are, on their books, the same entry. If a woman wakes with no memory of suffering, then as far as anyone is concerned, she did not suffer, and everyone can agree the method worked beautifully. The warmth arrives first, spreading from your arm into your chest, loosening things, and for a moment it is almost pleasant, a heavy floating ease. Then the edges of the room begin to go soft. The bright lights smear. The voices of the nurses stretch and warp and lose their words. Time comes unstitched, the seconds no longer holding hands with each other, and you feel yourself being lowered, gently and against your will, out of the sharp, clear world and into a warm, grey, and shapeless fog where nothing will stick. And here is the small horror hiding in the warmth, the part no one mentions. You are not leaving. Some frightened, lucid part of you remains fully present, riding down into the fog with its eyes open, feeling everything, understanding that it is about to be cut off from the very memory it is forming right now. You are being separated from your own night while you are still inside it, and for one last clear instant you know it, and then the knowing itself dissolves, and the fog closes over the top of you like water over a dropped stone. Mrs. Kessler watches your eyes go loose and unfocused with the calm of a woman who has seen 1,000 go under, and she pats your hand, and she says, there now, the way you would soothe a child into sleep. To her this is the merciful part, the moment managing a frightened patient gets easier. She cannot know what it is like from the inside, and you will have no way of telling her, because in a moment you will not remember there was an inside at all. The fog takes you, the room lets go. The last thing you are aware of is the warmth and the smear of light and the far, warped sound of a voice saying, there now. And then even that is gone, and the long, erased night begins, with you fully present for all of it, and no one home to remember. As the drugs take hold, you are moved into a special bed, and the bed has high sides. Tall rails wrapped in canvas rise around you like the walls of a crib, because a woman in twilight sleep thrashes and cannot be trusted not to fall. So you are placed inside a padded enclosure built for a grown woman, a bassinet for the mother instead of the child. The rails go up with a clatter. You are inside them now, drifting and confused, and the night that you will never remember is only beginning. The bed is a purpose-built thing, and its purpose tells you everything about what is coming. It is high-sided and deep, more crate than cradle, its tall rails wound in canvas and cotton padding so that a body flung against them will bruise rather than break. Someone designed this. Someone sat down and drew up a bed for a grown woman who would soon be thrashing beyond her own control, and the drawing was sensible, and the bed was built, and here it is, waiting for you with its padded walls raised. The rails come up with a hard metallic clatter, a sound like a gate closing, and there is something in that sound that the frightened, lucid part of you registers even through the fog. A gate has closed. You are contained now. Whatever happens inside these padded walls happens inside them, private and managed, out of sight, and the clatter of the rails is the last honest sound of the ordinary world before the long grey blur swallows everything. A nurse named Fenella Ardis moves along the row, and there is a row because you are not the only woman in a crib tonight. She checks each bed with brisk efficiency, testing that the rails are locked, tugging the canvas straight, the way a woman might check that the jars in a pantry are properly sealed. She does not linger. There are many cribs and one of her, and each holds a drifting, muttering woman being lowered into her own erased hours, and Fenella tends them all with the calm rounds of a keeper walking the aisles at night. Inside your padded walls, the drug is doing its work, and the world has come loose from its hinges. The ceiling drifts. The rails seem very tall and very far away, and then suddenly close. You are frightened, though you could not say of what, and the fear has no story attached to it, just a bright animal wrongness humming under the fog. You reach for the edges of yourself and find them soft and unreliable, and you sink a little further, and the crib holds you the way the fog holds you, gently, completely, without asking. The cruelty of it is not in any single cruel act. Nobody is being unkind. The rails are padded precisely so you will not hurt yourself. The nurse checks the locks precisely because she does not want you to fall. Every piece of it is designed with a kind of care. And yet the sum of all that careful design is a grown woman in a cage, alone in a fog, frightened of nothing she can name, being managed through the most important night of her life like livestock through a chute, for her own good, with the best of intentions. So the rails stay up, and the row of cribs stands in the dim ward, each with its drifting occupant, and Fenella walks her aisle, and you sink and rise and sink in your padded enclosure. The night has only just begun. There are many hours ahead, and you are wide awake for the start of them, penned, foggy, and afraid, in a crib built for a woman, waiting for a birth you have already been promised you will not remember. The scopolamine makes you frantic, and a frantic woman must be contained, so soft restraints are fastened around your wrists and sometimes your ankles. Pads of cotton are laid over your eyes and tucked into your ears to shut out the light and the noise that agitate you. You are bound, blinded, and deafened, drugged past memory, in a room full of people you cannot see. To them this is routine management of a difficult patient. To you it is nothing, because tomorrow you will not know that any of it happened. The scopolamine, it turns out, has a temper. The same drug that erases your memory also strips away your composure, and a woman under it does not drift serenely as the pretty name promises. She grows wild. She twists and cries out and claws at the air and at herself, a body in genuine distress with no one steering it. And this thrashing is not a rare complication but the ordinary result, expected, planned for, the whole reason the crib has padded walls in the first place. And so the containment escalates, gently, reasonably, one careful step at a time. First, the rails. Then, when the rails are not enough, the wrists, wrapped in soft cloth ties and fastened to the sides. Then, when the hands still fight, the ankles. Each new restraint is added for a sound, practical reason, to keep you from hurting yourself, and each is applied with the same calm competence, and the sum of the sound, practical reasons is a woman tied at all four corners in a cage, which no one quite says out loud. Then come the cotton pads, and this is the strangest kindness of all. Light agitates you, so pads are laid over your eyes. Sound agitates you, so cotton is tucked into your ears. The logic is impeccable, and the result is a sensory tomb. You are now bound and blind and deaf, sealed inside your own drugged skull, cut off from every signal the world might send you, alone in a warm, roaring dark with your own frightened animal self and nothing else at all. The nurses moving among the beds do not flinch at any of it, because to them it is simply Tuesday. Fenella Ardis tightens a wrist tie with the same absent care she would use to tie a parcel, checks that the cotton is seated, and moves on to the next crib, where another blind-bound woman is roaring into her own private dark. It is routine, it is management. The staff have a word for a woman in this state, and the word is not suffering. The word is difficult, as in a difficult patient, as in one who is making the shift harder than it needs to be. And here is the mercy the whole apparatus rests on, the single fact that lets everyone sleep at night. You will not remember this. Not the ties, not the cotton, not the roaring dark, not the fear. The scopolamine that made you frantic is also busy erasing the frantic hours as they pass, so that whatever is done to you now leaves no mark on the one record that would testify to it, your memory. You are being kept, quite deliberately, in the one condition where cruelty and care become impossible to tell apart, because the witness is being blinded from the inside. So you lie bound and sealed in the dark, present for all of it, feeling everything, and it is written on water as fast as it happens. Tomorrow you will wake believing you slept. The room will be tidied, the ties will be gone, and the only person who could ever say what this night was actually like will be the one person the drug has made certain can never say, because she was never, in any way that counts, allowed to be there for it at all. The doctor is not in the room for most of this. He arrives at the end, for the delivery itself, the part that looks like medicine. The long, drugged and thrashing hours in between are handed off to nurses, who watch the row of labour cribs and note the progress and manage the bodies inside the rails. You are one of several women in the ward, each drifting through her own erased night, tended by staff moving quietly between the beds under the dim light, waiting for the part where the doctor comes back. Dr. Vance, meanwhile, is asleep at home, or reading in his study, or attending to another patient entirely, because the great secret of the modern managed birth is how little of it the doctor actually attends. His name is on your chart and his fee is on your bill, but the hours of the thing, the long grinding middle where the real labour happens, are simply not his department. He will sweep in for the finale, gowned and gloved and important, and take his place at the foot of the bed for the part that photographs well. Until then, the ward belongs to the nurses, and the nurses are running a kind of night shift at a very strange factory. Fenella Ardis and Verna Kessler move between the cribs with clipboards and watches, timing contractions, noting numbers, adjusting a tie here and a cotton pad there, keeping the whole muttering, thrashing row of drugged women ticking along toward morning. It is skilled work and it is thankless work, and it is done almost entirely out of sight, by women, for women, while the men who take the credit sleep, and the women in the cribs, the reason for all of it, are barely present at all. You drift and surface and sink, a row of half-erased people being tended like a field of something growing, and there is a terrible loneliness in it that none of you will ever be able to compare notes on, because none of you will remember being here. You are together, a whole ward of you, sharing the same long night, and each of you is utterly alone inside her own fog, and tomorrow not one of you will know the others existed. Fenella pauses at your crib, checks the tie on your wrist, glances at the watch pinned to her chest, and marks something on the clipboard. For just a moment her hand rests on your shoulder, not because the chart requires it, but because some part of her, worn as it is, still reaches out to a frightened woman in the dark. It is the only genuinely tender gesture in the whole apparatus, and you will never know it happened, and she knows you will never know, and she does it anyway. That, perhaps, is the one real piece of care in the building. The hours grind on. The row of cribs breathes and mutters in the dim light. Somewhere a woman crests and is wheeled off to the bright delivery room, and a doctor is telephoned and comes hurrying in to catch a baby. He did nothing to bring this far, and takes his bow and goes home. Then another crib crests, and the whole small ritual repeats, all night long, the nurses doing the waiting and the watching and the holding, the doctors arriving just in time to be thanked. And you wait your turn in the row, drifting toward your own summons, tended by tired women whose names you will never learn, in a system that has neatly arranged for the people doing the most to be seen the least. When your moment comes, they will telephone Dr. Vance, and he will arrive for the finale, and the record will say he delivered you. The record will not mention Fenella's hand on your shoulder in the dark. Nothing will. It was not, after all, a billable event. Somewhere in the middle of the night, you are labouring hard, your body doing the oldest and most difficult work there is, and you are entirely present for it. You feel it. You cry out. You strain against the soft ties on your wrists. And every second of it is being wiped clean as it happens, written on water, so that the most physically demanding hours of your life will leave no trace in your memory at all. You are working harder than you ever have, and you are being robbed of the memory in real time. When you forget a thing the usual way, the thing at least happened to a you who was there for it, who lived it and then let it slip. This is different, a memory being prevented rather than lost, deleted at the source, so that the hours are not fading from your grasp but never being handed to you at all. You are present for your labour and simultaneously being written out of it, an author and a ghost in the same body, and it is not a small thing being taken. It is one of the largest experiences a human life contains, the bringing of a person into the world, and for most of history women carried it with them ever after. The whole of it, the terror and the effort and the moment the crying started, it was theirs. It belonged to them the way a scar belongs to you, earned, permanent, and yours. And here that entire inheritance is being quietly confiscated at the door in exchange for the promise that you will not have to remember it hurt. What makes it stranger still is that you are doing the work anyway. The drug does not lift a single ounce of the labor. Your body strains and opens and pushes exactly as it would in any bed in any century, spending everything it has, and you are conscious for all of that spending. You pay the entire price. You simply do not get the receipt. The effort is real, and the pain is real, and the achievement is real, and the only thing that is being subtracted is your knowledge that you were ever there to achieve it. Fenella, passing your crib in the deep of the night, sees you straining and crying against the ties, sees the sweat and the effort of a woman at the very limit of herself, and she knows, as the whole staff knows, that not one flicker of this will survive till morning. There is something almost unbearable in being the witness to a thing the doer will never be allowed to remember. She wipes your forehead with a cool cloth. You will not remember the cloth. She does it the way you leave flowers for someone who cannot see them, because it is right, not because it will be known. And still the work goes on, because the work does not care about the fog. Your body has an appointment to keep, and it keeps it, contraction by contraction, hauling this new person toward the light with everything you have, while your mind is held under and your memory is emptied as fast as it fills. You are the most alive you will ever be and the least allowed to keep it. Laboring magnificently in a dark, you will be told, tomorrow was a peaceful sleep. So the hours pass, and they are gone as they pass, spent and erased in the same motion, the richest and hardest hours of your life poured out into a night that has been engineered to hold nothing. You will never get them back. They were yours, and you were there, and the one mercy you were sold has softly taken from you the one thing that was most completely, unrepeatably your own. You wake in a still room with a dry mouth and a pounding head and a strange, floating blankness where the last many hours should be. A nurse tells you, warmly, that it all went beautifully, that you did wonderfully, that you have a healthy baby. You have no memory of any of it. You did not see the birth. You do not know if you screamed or slept. The most important night of your life has been handed back to you as a rumor, a thing that happened to someone who looked like you. The waking is not gentle. You surface out of the fog thick-tongued and pounding, your mouth like the bottom of a birdcage, your head full of wet sand. The room is bright and quiet and smells of clean sheets, and for a long confused moment you do not know where you are or why, only that a great deal of time has gone missing and taken a piece of you with it. You reach back for the night and your hand closes on nothing. There is simply a gap, smooth and seamless, where the hours should be. The nurse is cheerful, and her cheerfulness is the strangest part. She tells you it went beautifully, that you were wonderful, that everything is fine, in the bright tone of a woman reporting on a party you apparently attended and cannot recall. You did wonderfully. You want to ask, did I? You have no way of knowing. You have to take her word for the single largest thing your body has ever done, the way you would take a stranger's word for the weather in a city you have never visited. And then they bring you the baby, and here the strangeness turns almost cruel in its gentleness. A small, warm, furious bundle is placed in your arms, and you are told this is your child, that you brought this person into the world only hours ago, and you feel a rush of love and, underneath it, a thin, cold thread of unreality. You did not see this happen. There is no memory connecting the pregnant woman you were to the mother you now are, no bridge of experience across the gap, just a baby appearing at the far side of a blank like a coin produced from behind your ear. Other women, you will learn, describe the same thing, this odd second-hand quality to a birth they cannot remember, the feeling of being introduced to your own child rather than having met it. Some are simply grateful to have been spared, and that is real and fair. But many carry a faint unnamed unease ever after, the sense of having been robbed of something they cannot quite point to, the entrance of their own child into the world, an event that happened to them, and without them at the same time. Mrs. Kessler, tidying the room, treats your blankness as the system working exactly as designed, because it is. A woman who remembers nothing has no complaints to make about a night no one once examined. Your empty memory is not a side effect to her. It is the product. It is the very thing that was purchased, the clean, seamless gap that lets the whole ward run smoothly and lets everyone agree, with total sincerity, that modern birth is a gift, because the one witness who might disagree has been quietly relieved of her testimony. So you lie in the bright, quiet room, holding a baby you do not remember earning, grateful, disoriented, and vaguely bereft. And you decide, because everyone around you has decided, that this is how it is supposed to feel. You did wonderfully, they say. You have a healthy baby, they say. And you hold the small, warm proof of it and try to feel that the missing night does not matter, that a gap you cannot see across is a small price, that the rumour of your own motherhood is enough to build a life on. It will have to be. It is all they left you. What no one dwells on is that the drugs did not stop at you. Morphine and scopolamine cross easily into the baby, and so a great many of these infants are born deeply sedated, limp and quiet and faintly blue, too drugged to take a first breath on their own. A nurse rubs and jostles and works at the small body until at last a thin cry comes. The baby you were promised was healthy began its life needing to be revived from the same medicine that was supposed to make everything gentle. The thing everyone forgot, or chose not to think about, is that the two of you shared a bloodstream. Whatever went into your arm went, within minutes, into the baby, because that is what a bloodstream does. And the morphine that dulled you and the scopolamine that emptied your memory reached the small passenger at full strength, in a body a fraction of your size. The dose was calculated, loosely, for a grown woman. The baby got it too, and the baby was not a grown woman. So the infant arrives already deep in the fog, and it does not arrive the way babies are supposed to. There is no furious red squall, no immediate outraged cry, no small fists thrown at the cold new world. Instead, there is a limp, quiet and bluish thing, slack in the doctor's hands, too sedated to remember the one job a newborn is born knowing, which is to breathe. The room goes briefly still around it. A baby that does not cry is the one silence a delivery room dreads. And so the reviving begins, and it is brisk and practiced because it is common. A nurse takes the slack little body and rubs it hard, jostles it, works the small limbs, flicks the soles of the feet, doing everything short of alarm to startle the breath into starting. Sometimes the baby is held up, sometimes swung, sometimes given oxygen, the staff moving with the calm urgency of people who have coaxed a great many drugged infants into their first breath, and expect to coax a great many more. Then, at last, it comes, a thin, reedy cry, threadbare at first and then stronger, and the room exhales. The baby pinks up, the blue recedes from the small face, the limbs stiffen and begin to work, and the outraged squall everyone was waiting for finally arrives. Late, hauled up out of a sedation the child never asked for, everyone relaxes. The delivery is logged as a success. And it is one now, though it began as a small blue emergency that no one will mention to the mother when she wakes. Dr. Vance, arriving in time to receive the baby and hand it off to the nurse for reviving, thinks nothing of the blueness, because he has seen it 1,000 times, and it almost always resolves. To him, a sluggish, sedated newborn is simply a feature of the method, a small, predictable inconvenience on the way to a fine outcome, no more alarming than an engine that needs a moment to turn over on a cold morning. The baby breathes. The baby is fine. Why dwell on the 10 seconds when it wasn't? And mostly the babies are fine, which is exactly what keeps anyone from asking the harder question. The reviving usually works. The blue usually pinks. But the drug reached the child every single time, sedated the child every single time, started a great many lives with a small struggle for breath that the gentle marketing never mentioned. You will wake later and be handed a healthy pink baby and never be told it arrived blue. The mercy you were sold turns out to have been shared, without consent, with the one person in the room least able to survive it, and who did, this time, survive. You go home a few days later with the baby wrapped in a blanket and, still, with the bottles. The DES may continue for a while yet. The row of pills on the windowsill has not gone anywhere. You settle into new motherhood exhausted and medicated, and certain that you have been given the very best that modern medicine can offer, because that is what everyone keeps telling you. The bottles stand in the morning light above the sink, and you reach for the first of them, out of habit now, before the baby wakes. Coming home is its own strange passage. You carry the baby up the front steps and into the house you left as one kind of woman and returned to as another, and Walter hovers and beams and does not know where to put his hands, and your mother has filled the icebox and made up the crib, the small one, the one with the rails that keep a baby in rather than a woman. The house smells of coffee and clean laundry, and the particular hush that settles over a home with a newborn in it. You are exhausted in a way sleep will not touch, and the bottles are still there. That is the thing you notice, setting the baby down, that the row has not changed at all. The morning sickness bottle is empty now and gone. Its work done, but the others remain, and the white pills in particular may go on for weeks yet, because the drug that was meant to protect the pregnancy is sometimes continued past it, on a logic no one bothers to examine. You are not pregnant anymore. The pill does not seem to have noticed. So the daily ritual resumes, folded seamlessly into the enormous new labour of a baby. You wake before dawn to a small crying, and somewhere in the fog of feeding and changing and rocking you find yourself at the sink anyway, shaking a white pill into your palm out of pure habit, swallowing it with a half glass of water while the baby fusses against your shoulder. The hand knows the reach. It learned the reach months ago. It does not require your attention, and it does not get it. You are, by every visible measure, a triumph of the modern age. You have a healthy baby, a clean house, a low number on the scale, and a shelf of medicines diligently kept. When the neighbours come to admire the baby, they admire all of it, the whole tidy, happy, and enviable picture of a woman who did everything right and was rewarded with everything promised. Nobody looking at you sees a problem. You do not see a problem. There is only a happy young mother, a fat new baby, and a row of little bottles catching the light. Your mother, holding her grandchild by the window, looks at the pills again the way she looked at them months ago, and this time she says even less, because the baby is here and healthy and it seems churlish to raise it now, but something in her face has not settled. She has buried children of her own, in the old hard way, and she knows the world does not usually hand you a clean triumph with no bill attached. She kisses the baby's head and holds her tongue and hopes, privately, that she is simply an old woman worrying at nothing. And for a long while it seems she is. The baby thrives. The house runs. The bottles empty, and one by one finally stop being refilled, and the windowsill clears, and the whole strange medicated pregnancy recedes into the ordinary past, a thing that happened and is over and did no visible harm. You will remember these as good years. You have no reason not to. The bill for all of it has been written in a currency that does not come due for 2 decades, and the envelope is addressed, though no one knows it yet, to the small sleeping girl in the crib. You are not alone in any of this, and you learn as much over the back fence with the neighbour who had her baby the same year. You compare bottles like recipes. She was on the white pills too. She took the little tin for her appetite and the syrup for the nausea, and she woke up from her own erased night to her own healthy baby. Everyone is on the same regimen, prescribed by the same confident men, and the universality of it is exactly what makes it feel safe. Surely everyone cannot be wrong. The fence is where the real information moves, the way it always has among women. Dolores leans on her side with a basket of wet laundry on her hip, and you lean on yours with the baby on your shoulder, and between the pinned sheets you trade the small currency of new mothers, who slept, who did not, whose baby feeds, and whose fusses. And somewhere in it, inevitably, you get to the bottles, because the bottles are simply part of the landscape now, as ordinary as the weather, and discussed in the same tone. And the remarkable thing is how identical your lists are. She was on the white pills. So were you. She had the appetite tin, the nausea syrup, the sleeper for the nights. So did you. You went under for your births in the same fog, and woke to the same blank, and were handed the same reassurance. You are not 2 women who happen to make similar choices. You are 2 women who are handed the same printed script by the same kind of man, and are only now, at the fence, discovering that it was printed at all. This sameness ought to be alarming, and instead it is the very thing that soothes. If it were only you on this strange regimen, you might worry. But it is everyone. It is Dolores and her sister and the woman 3 doors down and every young mother on the block, an entire neighbourhood of windowsills stocked with the identical little bottles. It is the closest thing the block has to a loyalty program, and every kitchen keeps the same punch card. And a mistake that big, you reason, a mistake that universal, would surely have been noticed by someone. Safety in numbers, you think, leaning on the fence. The numbers feel like proof, but numbers are not proof. 1,000 women taking the same useless pill do not make it work. They make it normal, which is a different thing. A single mistake photocopied across a whole generation and mistaken, because there was so much of it, for a fact. Dolores, shifting her laundry basket, says the thing that sums up the whole age without knowing she is saying it. She says her doctor would never give her anything that was not perfectly safe, and she says it with the flat certainty of a woman stating that water is wet. It does not occur to her that her doctor was handed the pill by an advertisement, that his certainty is borrowed from a company, that the whole chain of confidence she is leaning on has no flaw at the bottom. She simply trusts, completely, and hangs a sheet, and the sheet snaps in the wind like a small white flag. So the two of you lean on the fence in the sun, comparing your matching bottles, taking real comfort in the sameness, two links in a chain neither of you can see the shape of. The babies coo. The laundry dries. And the very thing that should frighten you, that an entire neighborhood of women swallowed the identical unexamined pill, is the thing that lets you sleep at night, because you have all agreed, every one of you, that a mistake this popular could not possibly be a mistake at all. A couple of years later you are pregnant again, and the whole machine starts up once more, only smoother this time, because now everyone is more sure of it. The amber bottle appears earlier, the dose schedule is longer, the advice is delivered with even less hesitation, because the drug has been on the market for years, and the years themselves are treated as proof. Nobody has gone looking for the harm, and so nobody has found it, and the absence of a warning is mistaken for a clean bill of health. The second time through, you are an old hand, and there is a grim efficiency to it. You know the drill. You know the amber bottle and the enamel pillbox and the rising schedule, know the scale and the appetite tin and the ashtray, know that you will pack a small bag and go to the bright tiled room and wake with a blank where the birth should be. There is no learning curve now. You step back onto the carousel like a woman who never really got off, and it starts turning at once, and it turns faster and more confidently than before, because time has been doing the drug's work for it. The pill is not newer or better than it was. Not one new fact has been discovered in its favour. But it has now been prescribed for years, to millions, and that sheer accumulation of use has hardened into a kind of credential. It is trusted because it is familiar, and familiar because it is trusted, the two feeding each other in a loop with no fact anywhere inside it. Dr. Vance, older now and more certain than ever, hands you the prescription almost before you have finished telling him the news, uncapping the ceremonial pen with the fluid ease of a man who has written this 1,000 times. He does not pause. He does not weigh anything. Why would he? He blots the wet ink with the heel of his hand and slides the slip across the desk without quite looking at you. In his mind, the drug has an unbroken record of fine, healthy babies, including your own first, sleeping soundly at home, and that record is all the evidence a busy man requires. The first healthy baby has become, in his ledger, proof that the pill works. Every healthy baby born to a medicated mother is counted as a point in the drug's favour, while the harm, being silent, distant, and years away, is counted nowhere at all. The scoreboard only shows one team. A thing can be useless, even dangerous, and still rack up an unbroken run of apparent successes, simply because the failures have not filed their reports yet, and will not for 2 decades. Your mother, holding your first child by the hand and eyeing the fresh amber bottle on the windowsill, says almost nothing now, because saying something last time changed nothing, and the first grandchild is thriving, and who is she to argue with a thriving grandchild? But she watches the second pregnancy with the same unsettled quiet, an old woman who cannot name what worries her, standing in a bright kitchen where everything is going well, unable to shake the sense that a bill is running somewhere she cannot see. And so the second pregnancy proceeds exactly like the first, only smoother, only surer, the machine humming along with a confidence it has earned from nothing but repetition. You take the pills, you keep the appointments, you go under and wake blank and come home with another healthy baby, another point on the scoreboard for a drug that has still, to this day, never actually been shown to do a single thing it promised. The record grows, the record proves nothing, and somewhere, silently, the second envelope is being addressed. Here is the thing holding the whole arrangement up, though you will never see it. The law of the land, as it stands, requires a drug company to prove that a medicine is reasonably safe before selling it. It does not require them to prove that the medicine does anything at all. Effectiveness is not the government's business. So a pill can be sold for years, to millions, for a purpose it does not actually serve, entirely legally, and the only test it ever had to pass was the low bar of not obviously killing you fast. A company that wants to sell you a pill must clear a single meaningful hurdle. It must show the pill is reasonably safe, meaning it will not obviously poison you on the spot. That is the whole examination. Whether it does one atom of good for what it claims to treat is a question the law simply does not ask. This is not a loophole. It is the design. The rules were written in an earlier decade to keep outright poisons off the shelf, a reasonable enough goal, and they stopped there, never imagining they needed to go further. Safe was the bar. Useful was left to the honor system, to the good faith of companies and the judgment of doctors, which is another way of saying it was left to the advertisement and the profit and the hope of a busy physician who reads the journal and takes it at its word. A drug can be invented on a wrong theory, fail to do the thing it was invented for, be proven useless in a proper study, and go right on being sold, legally, to millions of trusting people for years, because none of that failure is against any rule. Uselessness is not a violation. A pill must satisfy exactly 3 legal boxes before it reaches your kitchen. It must be safe, labelled, and filed. Doing what it promises is not among them. The pill on your windowsill, between the salt and the coffee tin, is not an outlaw. It is a licensed, legal, and respectable product that happens to do nothing, and the law is perfectly at peace with that, because the law was never told to care. And the same gap that lets a useless drug flourish is the gap that lets an untested one slip through. If no one has to prove a thing works, no one has to study it very hard, and a drug that has never been carefully examined for what it does can also never be carefully examined for what it does wrong. The two questions travel together. A country that does not ask whether its medicines help has also decided not to look very hard at whether they harm. And that second silence is the one that will cost the babies. You of course know none of this, leaning on your fence or standing at your sink. You assume, as any reasonable person would, that a pill you can buy at a respectable drugstore on a doctor's order has been checked, tested, proven, vouched for by some serious authority somewhere. That assumption is the most natural thing in the world, and it is simply false. There is no such authority standing behind the white pill. There is only a company that proved it would not kill you quickly, and a law satisfied by that alone. So the whole confident edifice, the doctors and the advertisements and the drugstores and the fences full of reassured women, rests on a foundation with a hole in the middle of it, exactly the size of the question nobody was required to ask. Does it work? No one had to find out. And into that hole, over 3 decades, went several million pregnancies, swallowing a legal, respectable, entirely unproven pill, protected by a law that guarded them against poison and left them wide open to everything else. Underneath every pill you have swallowed sits one quiet assumption, shared by nearly every doctor of the age. They believe the baby is sealed off inside you, protected by the placenta as if by a wall, safe from whatever passes your lips. Whatever you swallow, the thinking goes, stays with you, and never reaches the child. It is a comforting idea, and it is completely false, and it is the reason no one thought to test any of these drugs on a pregnancy before handing them out. The wall they trusted was never there. The belief has a reassuring shape, which is probably why it lasted. The baby is imagined as a thing kept safe in a sealed room, walled off behind the placenta, floating in a private chamber that the outside world cannot reach. Whatever the mother eats or drinks or swallows is imagined to stop at that wall handled by her body, used up or filtered out before it can ever reach the small tenant inside. The mother takes the risk. The baby, sealed away, takes none. It is a lovely picture. It is also entirely wrong, because the placenta is not a wall. It is a doorway, and a busy one. Its whole purpose is exchange, the constant passing of things back and forth between mother and child, food and oxygen flowing in, waste flowing out, a border crossing that never closes. And a doorway built to let the good things through has no way of knowing to stop the bad ones. The morphine walks through it, the scopolamine walks through it, the synthetic hormone walks through it. The door does not check credentials. It simply opens, as it was built to. Every drug handed to a pregnant woman on the theory that it could not reach the baby was, in fact, reaching the baby. every time, at full strength. There was only a smaller, weaker, and defenseless person on the far side of an open door, receiving everything the larger person was given, in a body far too small to handle the dose. And the belief did more than permit the drugs, it prevented the questions. If you are certain the baby is sealed away, there is no reason to test a medicine on a pregnancy, no reason to wonder what a pill does to a developing child, because you have already decided the pill cannot get to the child at all. The false wall did not just let the harm in. It talked everyone out of looking for the harm, which is why a drug could be given to millions of pregnant women for 30 years before anyone thought to check the daughters. Dr. Vance, if you asked him directly whether the white pill reached your baby, would tell you not to worry, that the placenta protects the child, and he would believe it completely, because it is what he was taught, and what everyone around him believes, and what the whole comfortable structure of his practice depends on. He is not lying to you. He is telling you the single most dangerous, true-sounding falsehood of his profession, in perfect good faith, patting the air, certain of a wall that is really a door. So the pills go down, morning after morning, and each one crosses the doorway that everyone insists is a wall, and reaches the small sealed room that was never sealed, and does its quiet work on the one person no one is watching. You rinse the glass, set it on the rack, and turn to lift the baby, and the drug is already 3 rooms ahead of you. The comfort of the age was built on a mistake about a piece of anatomy, a wall imagined where a door stood open. And through that open door, mistaken for a wall, walked every drug of the decade, straight to the child it was promised it could never touch. There is a drug you are never given, and the reason is a single stubborn woman at a desk in Washington. It is a new sedative, wildly popular in Europe, marketed even for morning sickness, and an American company is desperate to sell it here. But the reviewer assigned to it will not sign. She keeps asking for proof that it is safe in pregnancy, proof the company does not have, and she refuses, month after month, under enormous pressure. Her name is Frances Kelsey, and her stubbornness is keeping something monstrous away from your door. The drug is called thalidomide, though you will never learn the name, and across the ocean it is a sensation. It is sold in Europe without a prescription, handed out as a mild, friendly sedative, gentle enough for children, calming enough for nerves, and, fatefully, recommended to pregnant women for exactly the morning sickness you fought with your own row of bottles. It is trusted the way your white pills are trusted, universally and without evidence, and an American company holds the papers and wants very badly to bring it to your drugstore. The application lands on the desk of Dr. Frances Kelsey, who has been at her government post barely a month, and by every expectation of the age she is supposed to be a formality. The drug is approved everywhere. The company is powerful and impatient. Her job, as everyone assumes, is to stamp the papers and move them along. Instead, she reads them, frowns, and does the one thing the whole system is not built to withstand. She asks for more. She wants proof it is safe for a pregnant woman, and the proof is not in the file, so she does not sign. And the company, which expected a rubber stamp, is astonished, and then angry, and then relentless. They telephone. They visit. Do. They go over her head. They accuse her of being difficult, of being a bureaucratic obstacle, of holding a miracle back from suffering patients out of stubbornness and nerves. And she absorbs it, month after month, and still she does not sign. She simply keeps asking the question no one can answer. What she does not yet know, what no one in America knows, is what her stubbornness is buying. Across Europe, in the same month she is refusing, babies are beginning to be born to mothers who took the friendly sedative, and the babies are arriving terribly wrong, their arms and legs shortened or missing, tiny hands set directly at the shoulder. The gentle morning sickness pill is doing this, and every month Kelsey refuses to sign is a month those babies are not being born in America, though she cannot yet see the catastrophe her one word is holding back. Think about how close it runs. The only thing standing between the American nursery and the European one is a single civil servant with a red pen and an unfashionable insistence on evidence, holding out against a powerful company, an impatient age, and the entire culture of Doctor Knows Best, alone at her desk, unthanked, called difficult, asking her question into a silence that will not answer. She has no way of knowing she is right. She only knows the proof is missing, and that missing proof, to her, is reason enough to wait. And because she waits, the drug never reaches your windowsill. You will go your whole life without ever hearing its name, never knowing how near it came, never knowing that a woman you cannot picture sat at a desk in Washington and, by simply refusing to be hurried, kept a monster off your street. You took every other pill they handed you. This is the one you were spared, and you were spared it not by the system, which failed everywhere else, but by one person inside the system who declined to stop asking whether it was safe. The company does not simply wait for permission. While the reviewer holds the line, they get the drug into the country another way, through a loophole in the same weak law that permits everything else. They call the pills investigational samples and hand out 2.5 million of them, free, to over 1,000 doctors, who pass them along to some 20,000 patients. No sale is ever recorded. Some of those patients are pregnant. The wall the reviewer built at her desk has a door in it, and the samples are already walking through. The maneuver is clever in the worst way. The law says you cannot sell a drug without approval, so the company does not sell it. It gives it away. The pills are relabeled as investigational, as research materials, as free samples handed to cooperating physicians for the purposes of study, and because no money changes hands and it all wears the respectable coat of science, it slips neatly around the very refusal that was supposed to stop it. Frances Kelsey guards the front gate. The samples come in through a window nobody thought to lock, and the numbers are not small. This is not a handful of pills in a research clinic. It is 2.5 million pills poured out across the country to more than 1,000 doctors who distribute them onward to some 20,000 patients, most of whom have no idea they are part of any experiment at all. To them it is simply a helpful, harmless and modern sample, their trusted doctor pressed into their hand, the way doctors were always pressing samples on patients, a free taste of the newest thing. They swallow it and say thank you. And among those 20,000, inevitably, are pregnant women, because the drug is being handed out as a sedative and a settler of nerves and stomachs, exactly the complaints pregnancy brings. So the very thing Kelsey is holding back at her desk is at this moment already circulating through American homes in an amber scatter of free pills, reaching some of the exact women it was most certain to harm. They cannot refuse a gift they were never told about. Not legally, not in time. The refusal at the top is real, and it matters enormously. And underneath it, the samples are already doing their end run around the whole thing. The same weak law is showing its other face here. The gap that let a useless drug be sold for 30 years is the gap that lets a dangerous one be given away by the millions, because a system that never took the testing of drugs seriously never built the fences such testing would require. Investigational was barely defined. Oversight was thin to non-existent. A company that wished to seed the country with an unapproved drug found almost nothing standing in its way, except the stubbornness of one reviewer. It was busy trying to go around. Here the good luck of America turns out to be narrower and stranger than the story usually tells. The country is spared the full European catastrophe, yes, and Kelsey deserves every bit of the credit she will receive. But spared is not the same as untouched. A small number of American babies are affected all the same. Born to mothers who took the free samples or who obtained the drug abroad. A handful of children who fell through the very window the company had pried open. The refusal saved thousands. The loophole still cost a few. So the picture is not a clean triumph, but a near miss with a ragged edge, one brave woman at a gate and a scatter of samples slipping past her through a law full of holes. It is a warning wearing the mask of a victory. The system did not protect the country. A person did, mostly, and imperfectly, against the system's own leaks. And the lesson, when it finally lands, will not be that America was safe. It will be that America was lucky, and that luck is a poor thing to hand a pregnant woman instead of a law. Meanwhile, the evidence against your white pills already exists, and it has for years. A careful study out of Chicago, run properly with a treated group and an untreated group, compared them side by side and found that the drug did nothing. Worse than nothing, in fact. The treated women fared slightly worse. The finding was published where any doctor could read it, and it changed almost nothing, because the drug was profitable and familiar and the belief in it was older than the proof against it, so the proof simply sat there while the prescriptions rolled on. The study should have ended it. A team in Chicago set out to test the white pill honestly, the way a thing ought to be tested. They took a large group of pregnant women and gave half of them the drug and half of them a dummy pill. And then, crucially, they compared the two, which is the entire trick of finding out whether a medicine does anything. It is not complicated. It is the difference between guessing and knowing. They did it, carefully, sometime around 1953, and they wrote down what they found. And what they found was nothing. The women who took the drug did no better than the women who took the sugar pill. Their pregnancies were not safer, their babies were not stronger. The promised miracle simply did not appear when you actually looked for it. If anything, the treated group did a shade worse. The white pill, tested properly, revealed itself as exactly what it was: a hormone with a lovely advertisement and no effect, a solution to a problem it had never once solved. The finding was not hidden. It was published, printed in the medical literature, available to any doctor who cared to read it, laid out plainly for the whole profession to see. The proof was not lost. It was not suppressed. It sat in the open, on the record, saying clearly that the drug did not work, and the profession glanced at it and shrugged and went right on prescribing. The drug was already everywhere, on every windowsill and in every purse, familiar, profitable, and woven into the routine of countless practices, already trusted by doctors who had prescribed it for years, and by mothers who had taken it and felt fine. A single study, however sound, was no match for 1,000 amber bottles already sitting on 1,000 kitchen sills. The belief in the pill was older than the disproof of it, and age beats a fresh finding nearly every time. So the study was slid into a drawer, and the bottles kept coming off the shelves. And the prescriptions rolled on, for years, for nearly 2 more decades, to several million more women, every one of them taking a drug that had already been shown, in black and white, to do nothing for them. Dr. Vance, if he ever saw the study, would have filed it somewhere behind his own long experience of healthy babies, because his ledger of successes felt more real to him than a table of numbers from Chicago, and so the pen kept moving and the amber bottles kept appearing on windowsills across the country. He would have turned the page with a licked thumb and called in the next expectant mother before the ink was dry. A piece of paper told the truth, and a profession could not be bothered to read it. The knowledge existed. The harm continued anyway, not because the proof was missing, but because no one would let a table of numbers outweigh a familiar amber bottle. Somewhere in a bound journal on a library shelf, the answer sat patiently, correct and ignored, while the very women it could have warned went on swallowing the pill it had already condemned. The bill for all of this does not arrive for 20 years, and when it does not come to you, it comes to your daughter. She is a young woman now, barely out of her teens, and she has been diagnosed with a cancer so rare it should not exist in someone her age. The doctors trace it backward, through her body, to yours, to a small white pill you swallowed at the kitchen sink before she was born. The healthy baby the advertisement promised has grown up and is paying for the promise. She is a whole person now, the baby you did not remember delivering. She has a favourite song and an easy laugh and plans for the autumn, and she is 19 or 20, and she has begun to feel unwell in a way that turns out to be very serious. When the diagnosis comes, it stops the doctors in their tracks, because the cancer she has is one they almost never see, and certainly never in someone so young. It is the kind of thing that makes a physician sit back and ask, quietly, what on earth could have caused this? And the answer, when they finally find it, reaches back across 2 decades to a bright kitchen and a windowsill and a small amber bottle. It was the white pill. The synthetic hormone you swallowed faithfully every morning, the one that was for the baby, the one that would grow a bigger, stronger, healthier child, has surfaced again in that child grown to a young woman, in the form of a rare cancer of the body it helped to build. The drug did reach her. Through the door everyone called a wall, and it waited, patiently, for 20 years. It was a kind of harm the world had almost no framework for. A poison that skips the person who swallowed it and strikes the one who could not. You took the pill and felt nothing, suffered nothing, aged into a healthy woman. The cost was not deducted from you. It was deferred and passed forward, and charged to a person who was not yet born when the choice was made, who never swallowed anything, who simply grew inside a body that was being medicated on the advice of a smiling man with a fountain pen. The pen, at least, has held up beautifully. And it is not only the cancer, though the cancer is the sharpest edge of it. The daughters of these pills grow up to find other troubles woven into them, difficulties carrying their own pregnancies, bodies built a little differently by a hormone that arrived during the weeks they were being assembled. The harm is not a single blow but a long inheritance, unfolding across a life and sometimes into the next one. a bill that keeps arriving in new envelopes for years after everyone had agreed the matter was closed and the babies were fine. You, the mother, are left holding a grief with a terrible thread of guilt stitched through it, though you did nothing any reasonable woman of your time would not have done. You followed every instruction. You were the best patient your doctor had. You took the pill precisely because you loved the baby, because you wanted to give her every advantage, because a trusted man in a white coat told you it was for her. That your love was turned into the instrument of her harm is not your failing. It is the failing of everyone who handed you the pill and never once checked. So the telephone rings 20 years after the bright kitchen, and the world you thought was finished with reaches out one long invisible hand and touches your grown daughter, and the whole confident decade finally presents its bill, itemized, overdue, and charged to exactly the person it had promised to protect. The healthy baby, the bigger, stronger child. She grew up. She trusted her own doctors, as you trusted yours, and she is paying, now, for a promise printed on an advertisement before she drew a single breath. Eventually the whole edifice cracks, and it cracks because of the drug you never got. When the European sedative the stubborn reviewer blocked is finally revealed as the cause of thousands of deformed babies, the public horror is enormous, and the law changes almost overnight. For the first time, a drug company must prove that a medicine actually works before selling it, and must prove it far more carefully that it is safe. The loophole for free samples is closed. The reviewer who refused to sign is given a medal by the president. It is the thalidomide babies who finally break the spell. The small European children with the shortened arms, their photographs appearing in newspapers around the world. There is no arguing with those photographs. They do what no published study ever managed to do, what the ignored proof from Chicago could not do, what all the unspoken unease of all the mothers could not do. They make the abstract danger of an untested drug suddenly, unbearably concrete, and a public that had trusted completely turns, overnight, into a public that demands to know, and the story of the reviewer who said no becomes the hinge of it. Frances Kelsey, called difficult, pressured for a year, is revealed as the one person who stood between America and those photographs, and the country that nearly overruled her now makes her a hero. The company that had spent a year calling her difficult goes very quiet on the subject. The president himself gives her a medal, the highest a civil servant can receive, difficult, apparently only until proven right, for the simple act of refusing to be hurried into approving something no one had proven safe. The stubbornness that was a liability becomes, in hindsight, the thing that saved a generation of American arms. Out of the horror comes the law, and it is the law that should have existed all along. For the first time, a company can no longer sell a drug merely by showing it will not poison you quickly. It must now prove that the medicine actually does the thing it claims to do, must test it properly and show its work, must report the harms it finds instead of burying them. The single question the old law never asked, does it work, becomes the law of the land. The hole in the middle of everything is finally filled in, and the loophole closes with it. The trick of pouring millions of free investigational samples into the country is written out of what a company is allowed to do. The fences that should have surrounded the testing of drugs are built at last, late, over the graves and the injuries that made their necessity impossible to deny. It is real reform, genuine, lasting, and overdue, and it will protect countless people who will never know they were protected, never know the name of the disaster that bought them their safety. But reform is a cold comfort to the ones who paid for it, and it is worth saying plainly that the new rules arrive too late for you. The law that would have required someone to prove the white pill worked comes decades after you swallowed it. The care that would have caught the harm comes after your daughter was already built. The reckoning is real, and it matters enormously for the mothers who come after, and it does exactly nothing for the bottle that once stood on your windowsill or the bill that has already come due in your family. So the age ends the way these ages usually end, not with anyone admitting they were wrong in time, but with a catastrophe too large to ignore, a set of photographs that could not be argued with, and a law written in the plain, hard language of hindsight. The reviewer gets her medal, the rules get their teeth. And somewhere a woman reads the newspaper about the brave lady at the government desk and sets down her coffee and thinks of a small amber bottle from 20 years ago and understands, for the first time, exactly what she was never told. In the years that follow, the bottles on the windowsill disappear one by one. The white pills are pulled after the cancer is traced. The routine X-rays are abandoned once someone finally counts the childhood cancers. The erased births give way to mothers who want to be awake for their own children. And slowly, unevenly, a small new freedom appears in the examining room. The freedom of a patient to be told what she is swallowing and why, and even to ask. You were not allowed to ask. Your daughter will be. The dismantling happens quietly, one piece at a time, and each piece has its own reckoning. The white pill goes first, withdrawn once the rare cancers in the daughters make it impossible to defend. The prenatal X-ray follows, abandoned when the stubborn woman in Oxford is finally listened to, and her long list of childhood cancers is believed at last. One after another, the confident interventions of your pregnancy are taken down off the shelf, not all at once, but steadily, each retreat forced by a harm that could no longer be waved away. The erased birth takes longer to fall, because it was so beloved by the hospitals and so wrapped in the language of mercy. But women begin to talk, really talk, comparing the blank where their births should be, and a movement grows of mothers who decide they would rather feel their own labour and keep it than be handed back a rumour. They ask to be awake, they ask for their husbands in the room, they ask, and the asking itself is the revolution, because asking was the one thing the whole old order could not survive. That is the true change, deeper than any single banned drug. It is a shift in who gets to speak in the small, bright examining room. The old bargain, doctor talks and patient trusts, begins to give way, and a woman on the cold vinyl table might now expect to be told what is in the amber bottle, what it does, what it might cost, and might follow with a question and receive, of all things, an answer. It sounds so modest. It was, for its time, enormous. None of it was clean, quick, and complete, and it would be a lie to pretend otherwise. The new rules had gaps of their own, and new drugs would bring new troubles, and the profession did not become humble overnight, or perhaps ever entirely, and it would go on being confidently wrong about other things, roughly one wonder drug at a time. But the floor had shifted. A pregnant woman was no longer quite a parcel with a name on it, to be dosed and measured and put under and handed back a baby with no questions entertained. She had become, slowly and against real resistance, a person entitled to know. And think of what that would have meant for you, in your bright kitchen, 20 years too early. You had the questions the whole time. You carried them around unasked, tucked away like the loose button you kept meaning to sew, standing at the sink with the bottle in your hand, wanting to know and knowing you must not ask. You were not lacking in sense. You were lacking only permission, the simple standing to say, "Before I swallow this, tell me what it is." That permission is exactly what the reckoning, too late for you, finally hands to the women who follow. So the windowsill empties, and the examining room slowly changes its manners, and your daughter grows up into a world where a woman can look her doctor in the eye and ask what she is being given, and expect a real reply. She will not always get a good one, but she will be allowed to ask, and being allowed to ask is the whole distance travelled from your kitchen to hers. You were not allowed, she is. It is a small sentence, and it is the entire difference, and it was paid for in full by the women who were not. So there you have it. You spent the night swallowing a chalky white pill for a problem you did not have, riding a stimulant into the morning and a barbiturate out of it, lighting a cigarette on doctor's orders, lying still under a machine that photographed your bones for fun, and finally going under in a padded crib to a birth you were promised you would never remember. And through all of it, you were the best patient your doctor had. You did absolutely everything right. That was rather the trouble. It is easy, from here, to laugh at the confidence of it, the fountain pens and the fat baby advertisements, and the men who were so very sure. But spare a real thought for the women themselves, the ones who took every pill because they loved the babies, who trusted because trusting was what a good woman did, who carried questions they were never once allowed to ask. They were not foolish. They were faithful, in a world that had quietly made faith the only thing on offer. They deserved to know what they were swallowing. Most of them never found out until it was far too late, and some of them are still, all these years on, tending the long bill that came due in their daughters. It was a great deal to ask of anyone, to hand over your body and your baby and your very memory, and to call it the best care in the world. Thank you for staying with me through all of it, the bright kitchens and the dim wards and the small amber bottles catching the morning light. You have come a long way tonight, and there is nothing left now to do, nothing to take, nothing to ask, no scale to step on in the morning. so let your shoulders drop. Let the pillow take the whole weight of your head. Let the day and the century and every last confident voice fade down into the quiet until there is only your own breathing and the soft, dark closing gently over the top of it. You are not a patient here. You are just a person, resting. Sleep well.